Hey, everybody, it is 7:01 p.m. Are we ready in the balcony? Thumbs up in the balcony. You know what I say? If they're ready in the balcony, we're all ready. All right. Is staff ready here? Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City Council meeting. This is the Alameda City Council. Tonight is Tuesday, May 6th. 2025, and I would like to call the meeting to order. We did not start with a closed session, so at this time, I would like to ask my colleague, Councilmember Greg Bowler, if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Thank you, Councilmember Bowler. And with that, we will move on to the consent calendar. And these, this is actually the consent calendar for the successor agency to the Community Improvement Commission, which also was known as the Redevelopment Agency. And so, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Council members Bowler.
Here.
Daysog.
Here.
Jensen. Pryor.
Here.
Mayor Ezzy Ashcraft.
Here.
5 present.
Okay, and then we have a consent calendar. This is the consent calendar on the special, the successor agency. So, and the only item on it is the minutes of the last meeting that was February 18, 2025. Madam Clerk, do we have any public speakers on the consent calendar for the successor agency?
We do not.
Okay, seeing that we have none, could I have a motion to approve the consent calendar again, just for the successor agency? It's been moved by Councilmember Bowler, seconded by Councilmember Daysog because he's nodding. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
That passes unanimously. And then we will go on to our one item, regular agenda item under the successor agency agenda. Madam Clerk, would you please introduce that item?
Recommendation to accept the fiscal year 23-24 audited financial statements and compliance reports.
All right, thank you and welcome, and go ahead and introduce yourself. I feel like I've seen you recently.
Good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. My name is Ross McCarthy, Acting Finance Director. Before I bring Kevin up to speak, I have received a few questions regarding Exhibit 1 of the agenda item. City Clerk, could you bring up page 158 of Exhibit 1, please? This Exhibit 1 is our annual comprehensive financial report. Also known as our ACFR. These are our yearly comprehensive and very comprehensive financial statements. If you could just zoom in, just zoom up just a little bit. I just wanted to point out a few numbers if I could, and just scroll up just a tad, right there. Okay, right, perfect. Thank you very much. Page 158 starts a 10-year comparison of the CalPERS schedule of changes for the city's miscellaneous pension plan. This is the pension plan for non-safety employees. This is supplied to us by CalPERS every year and shows how our net liability changes year over year. The first part of this table shows the liability itself. For example, I think is there a pointer laser? Oh yeah, I can barely see it. So if you can't see the laser there.
No.
The first part of this table shows the liability itself, also called the total pension liability. So during the year, I'll just take 23 as an example. We added to the liability 5.9 million in service costs, 22 million in interest, 8.3 million in changes of assumptions. Those could be anything from inflation expectations, mortality tables, all sorts of things that CalPERS actuaries do, whatever it is they do. All right, and then we come down to the total pension liability of $339 million for the miscellaneous pension plan. Now, against those liabilities, we have plan fiduciary net position. Really, those are our assets. So during the year, fiscal year 2023, we have 10 million in employer contributions, 3 million in employee contributions. And I think this next number is the one I really wanted to point out, is this negative 20 million right here. Ultimately, what this is investment losses for the fiscal year ended 21-22. So CalPERS is a huge organization, and when they do their measurement dates, they have to measure assets a year in arrears, just because they're so large and they couldn't get out their financial statements in
So
time.
that's our share of CalPERS's loss.
Yes, basically. And so what happens is we have assets in the plan as we contribute against our UA, all these contributions that we make to CalPERS. And then fiscal year 22, the first half of fiscal year 22, we had a bear market here, economy wide. So ultimately, that's what that $20 million loss, investment losses. I know they call it net investment income, but it'll show losses and gains. For the most part, they're positive. The economy goes up and things like that. And then ultimately at the bottom there, net pension liability, that is our liability less our assets. And so if you look at 2 pages down and on page 160, you'll see the safety side of things. So the safety pension costs. I'm hoping that answers the questions that we have.
Yes, thank you very much. It does.
Yeah.
The reason why I asked it, because that's a great table. It shows 10 years worth of data. And you have on that row called net investment income. Everything is positive, positive, positive. And then suddenly there's a negative. And
Exactly.
so that really caught. And the thing is, I didn't find any notations. So that was like FYI.
Yeah, and this definitely is all supplied by CalPERS
Okay.
to us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I'd like to turn the time over to Kevin Kennedy, our elected city auditor, who has,
Kearney.
oh my gosh, Kearney,
One or the other.
Kevin, one of the Kevins.
Yeah.
I'd also, it says Kearney.
Kevin
I'd
Kennedy.
also like to mention Tim Q from our external audit firm, Mays and Associates. Mays and Associates is here with any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Mayor and City
Auditor
Council.
Kearney.
I'm happy to say that we received another clean opinion. And I really wanted to compliment Ross and the staff. We went full-time in-house producing the financial statements. And that's going to be it's no small undertaking, and it's really a credit to the hard work of everybody in the finance department, and probably everybody in the city that has to interact with the finance department to get their information, so that we can have these financial statements. Now that Mays now they're auditing literally the financial statements that we produce, which that's a huge accomplishment. And I want to give props to everybody for a job unbelievably well done. So that I think that for me is probably the highlight of the audit, is being able to accomplish that. There were some other items in prior years that we were able to address, and I think that we're in a really good position. And I really don't have anything else to say. I think this year, they go up and down, they go up and down, they go up and down as far as, how's the work going? But I thought this year was what's very smooth. And I think everybody that's in place is doing a very nice job. And I think we should all be happy with their effort. They work hard and they did a great job. Thank you.
Well, thank you for those remarks. Did anyone have any questions for the auditor before he leaves altogether? Okay, seeing none, thank you for that, Mr. Kearney, and we will move. I will then adjourn the.
I think you need a motion.
Oh, sorry, I do. I need a motion to accept the fiscal year 2023-24 audited financial statements and compliance report.
So moved.
It's moved by Vice Mayor Price, seconded by Councilmember Jensen. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
That passes unanimously. Okay, so now I will adjourn this special joint meeting of the City Council and successor agency. I'll call to order the regular City Council meeting for May 6, 2025. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Roll call has been noted, 5 present.
Thank you. And any agenda changes?
There.
Well, do you want to note the one that happened before we got here about, the closed?
Yes, the
that-
closed session was not heard. That was canceled. That meeting was canceled. So we did not hold a closed session tonight.
All right, thank you for that. So then we move on to proclamations and special orders of the day. And, some meetings I don't have any proclamations, and this meeting, because in May, there are 2 important ethnic heritage months that we recognize. I'm going to do two proclamations, and they're both important. We've got first up in alphabetical order, I might add, is Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. So May is National Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander, or AANHPI, which I'm going to abbreviate as ANPI, Heritage Month, which encompasses countries across the entire Asian continent, including China, Japan, Korea, the Philippines, Vietnam, and Thailand, and the Pacific Islands, including Samoa, Tonga, and Guam. This year's theme, A Legacy of Leadership and Resilience, was chosen by the Federal Asian Pacific American Council, or FAPAC, to honor the hard work of ANPI leaders, and this is a quote, who established a foundation for future generations to thrive and adapt to change and adversity. The 2025 ANPI Heritage Month poster features bamboo, which is a symbol of strength, endurance, and resilience because of its ability to withstand the harshest conditions and its solid foundation that allows it to bend with the wind and stand tall after the storm passes. Immigrants from ANPI nations arrived in this country filled with hope and searching for better lives for themselves and future generations. Despite the relentless obstacles they encountered, from racist exclusion laws to language divides and being denied citizenship, they persevered. And today, their children and grandchildren are leaders, change makers, and pillars of their communities, a testament to the unwavering spirit of their ancestors who faced adversity with dignity and strength. We honor the enduring legacy of ANPI trailblazers and leaders whose resilience and courage paved the way for future generations, including Lieutenant Susan Ahn Cuddy, who in 1942, during World War II, joined the Navy Women Accepted for Volunteer Emergency Service, or the WAVES. You've heard of the Navy WAVES probably. Despite anti-Asian sentiments and sexism in the U.S. military, becoming the first Korean-American woman in the U.S. military and the first female Navy gunnery officer, and then the late Secretary of Transportation Norman Mineta, born to Japanese immigrant parents, was sent with his family to an internment camp during World War II, but rose to serve in the U.S. Army, Congress, and in the cabinets of Presidents Bill Clinton and George W. Bush, transforming a history of injustice into a lifelong commitment to public service and equity. Today, ANPIs are the fastest growing demographic among the 9 Bay Area counties, comprising 27% of all Bay Area residents and more than 30% of Alameda's population. The city of Alameda proudly honors the legacy of ANPI leadership and resilience that has shaped our community, our region, and our state. From Korean independence activists who organized in the Bay Area to Southeast Asian refugees who rebuilt their lives in Alameda after the Vietnam War, ANPI residents turned hardship into hope and enriched the city's cultural and civic life. Their legacy lives on in Alameda, where ANPI residents continue to lead with vision and purpose. They include the late Wilma Chan, former Speaker of the California State Assembly and Alameda County Supervisor, Betty Yee, former State Controller, Rob Bonta, California Attorney General and former State Assembly member and Alameda City Council member, Lena Tam, Alameda County Supervisor and former Alameda City Council member, and City Council member Tony Desag. Also, Reverend Michael Yoshi, former pastor of Buena Vista United Methodist Church and co-chair of the Friends of Wadi Fokine, and Alameda Chamber Board Chair and businesswoman Joanne Gutarte. Across our island, ANPI educators, small business owners, healthcare workers, and artists enrich Alameda's diverse fabric, ensuring that the spirit of leadership and resilience endures for generations to come. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Marilyn Ezzy Ashcraft, Mayor of the City of Alameda, do hereby proclaim May 2025 as Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander Heritage Month in the city of Alameda and encourage all Alamedans to learn more about the remarkable history of Anpis through related books, films, and other resources at the Alameda Free Library. And the library's many Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month events include digitizing and documenting your family history on, I think this is past, but there might be some information still. Library Director Mike Eitner is in the room. That was Saturday, May 4 at 1 o'clock at the main library. And this Saturday, May 10th at 10:30 a.m. at the West End Library is a Japanese-English bilingual family story time. And also on Saturday, May 10th at 1 o'clock, this is at the Ladecker Event Room, that's over by the Bay Farm branch, is From Folk Tales to Fairy Tales that will include puppets and songs. And then on Saturday, May 17th, 3 p.m. at the West End Library, Family Story Time with Alameda author Edna Kabasin Moran, who will include a hula demonstration. I know Edna, she's a fabulous dancer, a hula demonstration and discussion of the art of Hawaiian storytelling. Wednesday, May 21st at 3:30 p.m. at the main library are short stories originating in India, Japan, China, and the Philippines from storyteller Rupa Mohan. And then Saturday, May 24, 2 p.m. in the main library is a film screening called Mother Earth, the Magnificent with traditional song and dance. And finally, Tuesday, May 27 at 10:30 a.m. at the West End Library, Kids Go Mandarin presents a musical Mandarin English bilingual family story time. And you don't have to have memorized all of those. You can visit the library's website, right, Director Eitner? But check it out because these are really exciting presentations. And I'm so appreciative to the library for bringing these to us. So next up, after a sip of water, is Jewish American Heritage Month proclamation. So May is National Jewish American Heritage Month, when we honor and recognize the inspiring, rich history of Jewish Americans and celebrate powerful stories of Jewish life in America. In 2006, President George W. Bush established Jewish American Heritage Month and proclaimed that with hard work and determination, Jewish people helped build our country and strengthen our values, and their belief in democracy has enriched our society and helped make our country a beacon of hope for all. Jewish people in the midst of persecution played a significant role in American history and California's history, making important contributions to the arts, science, technology, and more. They include Albert Einstein and his contributions to physics, Henry Kissinger and his work in U.S. foreign policy, Marcus Lowe, Californian and founder of MGM Studios, and Louis Rose, one of San Diego's earliest settlers. The Jewish American experience encompasses a vast spectrum of racial, cultural, social, political, and economic identities, embracing a multitude of voices, including Jews of color. In the San Francisco Bay Area, where history, activism, and diversity converge, an estimated 350,000 plus Jewish individuals form one of the most dynamic and sizable Jewish communities in the United States. Alameda is home to rich communities of Jewish life, including Temple Israel and Chabad Alameda, each honoring timeless Jewish traditions and sponsoring community events. Temple Israel was founded in 1920 by a dozen Jewish Alameda families who were committed to creating a Jewish communal space for themselves and future generations. On May 17, Temple Israel will celebrate its 105th, they're calling it Centennial plus 5 anniversary, because they were not able to celebrate their 100th anniversary because it fell in 2020 and we were having a pandemic. But honoring Jewish History Month also requires bearing witness to the deep pain and anguish felt by Jewish Americans today as they confront rising acts of violence and hatred both at home and around the world. Since the October 7, 2023 3 terrorist attack on Israel by Hamas and Israel's response in Gaza, there has been a dramatic rise in anti-Semitic incidents involving Jewish Americans, according to the latest annual State of Anti-Semitism in America report released by the American Jewish Committee in February 2025. The city of Alameda is committed to vigorously condemning and combating anti-Semitism wherever it exists and to standing with the Jewish American community against hatred and bigotry. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Marilyn Ezzy Ashcraft, Mayor of the City of Alameda, do hereby proclaim May 2025 as Jewish American Heritage Month in the city of Alameda and encourage all Alamedans to learn more about Jewish history and culture through related books, films, and other resources at the Alameda Free Library, and by taking part in local events, including Storytime and Crafts with Miss Jen. Okay, this one has already happened. Miss Jen is Director of Education at Temple Israel of Alameda, and she read stories, sang songs, and discussed the many important contributions of Jewish Americans to our country, and maybe she'll come back. And also that Saturday at 10:30, between 10:30 and 12 in the main library was Jewish American Heritage Month family-friendly programs that I know include some art projects. And then tonight, but you might have missed it, Jewish Perspectives on Immigration from 2 Alameda residents who are members of the Kahila Community Synagogue. And then coming up this Saturday, Jewish Heroes, a family program highlighting Jewish heroes in collaboration with Miss Jen from Temple Israel. And that's Saturday, May 10, 1:00 p.m. at the main library. Also on Saturday, May 10th in the main library at 2:30. So just go hear from Miss Jen and then stay, because local folk musician and Holocaust music scholar Vilde Chaya leads a workshop and performance on Jewish folk music, including Yiddish, Hebrew, Ladino, and more. And again, Saturday, May 10th at 2:30 p.m. And finally, Saturday, May 17th at 2 p.m. at the Bay Farm Library, well, next door at the Ladecker Event Center, Rabbi Cynthia Minster from Temple Israel presents Jewish Contributions to Pop Culture, a fascinating look at Jewish contributions to American pop music, film, and culture. The presentation will include film and music clips. And I happen to know that she has a fabulous voice, so maybe she'll even sing a little bit. But anyway, thank you again to the Alameda Free Library for putting together these exhibits and activities so that our community can celebrate this important Heritage Month. And with that, that's the end of our proclamations.
Madam Mayor,
Yes,
if I may,
yes, please.
this will just be all of 20 seconds. I do want to note that former council member Stuart Chen, also of American Invasion descent, he is sponsoring or co-sponsoring on May 18th at Alameda Point, the Asian Pacific Islander Cultural Festival. So that's slated for May 18th, Alameda Point, 950 West Mall Square. And one other note, on April 26th, last month, I attended the Asian and Pacific Islander Arts and Culture Festival. And that was sponsored by Rhythmic Cultural Center and the City of Alameda. And it was a wonderful event.
Oh,
So thank you.
very nice. Anything anybody else wants to share about our proclamations? Okay, thank you for sharing that. Okay, so then we move on to oral communications, but before we do, I always read my just rules of the roads, the meeting rules. And so I will remind everyone that the city council meeting is a business meeting. It is not theater, it's not a sporting event, so we don't clap, boo, cheer, jeer, do the wave. And the reason for that are many. We want to run an efficient, respectful meeting, but also for many people, public speaking is the most stressful thing, one of the most stressful things you can do. And some people might not even get up and be a public speaker if they're afraid that someone will boo or hiss or say something rude. So we are just respectful. We give everyone their space. We treat people the way we would want to be treated. And you will all have your 2 minutes or 3 minutes, whatever the time allows, to speak. And I also remind people that, I don't see young people today, children, students in the audience, but they could be watching. Many people watch, and we want to set a good example. And I want the city council chambers, this is the town hall, I want it to be a safe space where everybody feels that they can just walk up and share their views. We don't have to agree with you. It's lovely when you can communicate your views respectfully, regardless of where you stand on the political spectrum. But again, the First Amendment is a wonderful tool that we are fortunate to have. So, and if you're holding signs, that's your First Amendment right too. I just ask that unless you're in that far back row, don't hold them over your head because you don't want to block the view of someone behind you. And I'm just going to read this excerpt from the California Penal Code that I'm sure I won't need to use, but I have to read it anyway. California Penal Code 403 states that it is a criminal offense for any person to, without authority of law, willfully disturb or break up any assembly or meeting that is not unlawful in its character, other than an assembly or meeting referred to in Penal Code 302 or Elections Code 18340. First violations will receive a warning, and continued violations will require additional action, which could include police intervention. There, I said it. And now, Madam Clerk, do we have public speakers under oral communication non-agenda items?
We do. We have two. The first is Brian Kennedy.
Welcome, Speaker Kennedy.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, I'll get to her lately. Every time I go on social media with the city, you guys really throw out some doozies. It's amazing. First, you did the thing where the myth that the 14th Amendment provides automatic citizenship to children of illegal aliens, and that's bogus. It's not true. The latest one that you did is even just as bad. I noticed that you've got an immigrants know your rights up on our website here. Here's my question. Why are you helping criminal illegal aliens? Why would you do that? Why would you make ICE's job any tougher than it has to be? Did you guys know this? You probably don't know this about ICE, evidently. ICE is the #1 federal agency that combats child sex trafficking. The southern border of our nation is controlled by the cartels, who have found that human sex trafficking, child sex trafficking, is every bit as lucrative as the drug trade, the fentanyl that comes over that kills hundreds of thousands of people. ICE is the #1 agency that combats that. Why would you make their job any tougher? Now, during the 4 years of the failed Biden-Harris administration, in addition to the 12 million illegal aliens they purposely let in, you know how many kids went missing across the southern border, Tony? Over 300,000. 300,000. Now, Kamala Harris, failed VP, failed presidential candidate, was also a failed border czar. 300,000 plus little kids went missing on our southern border. And guess what our president has done? Alameda's president, Donald Trump. He has tasked ICE with tracking down and rescuing little kids. Can you imagine the hell they're living in? And you put this stuff up and you make ICE's job more difficult. Why would you do that? So far, by the way, they've rescued 5,000, them along with HHS. So tell me, please, that the city of Alameda isn't pro-child sex trafficking. Please tell me that. Why would you interfere with the heroes of ICE? It's appalling. As far as another reason I'll give you, the lady you're looking up there, that is Madison White. Now, talk about warning ICE, long story. Back in 2020, ICE was going to do a raid in Oakland. Their scumbag mayor, Libby Schaaf, warned the illegals. A bunch of them got away when ICE made the raid. One that got away shot and killed her. He emptied a 10-round magazine to her because of this type of crap, pardon my language. Why are we doing this? Her mother now is an angel mom. Her mom will never, never, never know her daughter again because of Sanctuary City and this type of crap where we're thwarting ICE in their heroic efforts. Take it down. Can you do the right thing? Or you pro-child sex trafficking? You pro-cartels? I hope not. Not this. This is an embarrassment, guys. Take this garbage off our website.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Gabriel Duncan.
And Madam Clerk, you take the photo down, please? Is, okay, thank you. All right, welcome, Speaker Duncan.
Thank you. I think it's really shocking to conflate people's rights with something like child sex trafficking. And I'm just really shocked by that. I'm sorry, I had to say that first. So my name's Gabriel Duncan. I'm the founder of the Alameda Native History Project. And we just finished our first annual Acorn Harvest, followed by our culinary series, where we were able to create acorn flour for the first time in over 300 years, which is a culturally relevant, nutritious, dense, and culturally appropriate food. And I'm also proud to announce that we recently received a recommendation from the Public Art Commission for a grant of $5,000 to continue our work. And we're very, very excited to be able to put more funds towards our efforts to create an even larger and more successful acorn harvest than we've already had. So I want to once again say thank you for your continued support. And I really enjoyed seeing you at our culinary series. And I hope to see more of you at more of our events. So I just wanted to say that I've dropped off some flyers in the lobby about our next acorn harvest. On the back, it's got our URL to acorns.nativehistoryproject.org, where you can find out more information about what we're going to do and sign up for the various different activities that we're going to be having starting in July, which is the Acorn Granary Project. Then the harvest starts in August and it goes till the first week of December. And then we're going to start creating acorn flour a little bit earlier this year in December and go until March. And then we're going to have our culinary series again, hopefully every Sunday in April, hopefully at the same spot. We owe a big debt of gratitude to the Alameda Recreation and Park Department, especially for hosting us at Mastic Senior Center. And I understand it is also in large part because of the support of this council. And I'm very grateful for that and humbled by that support. And then I also just want to say that you can still support the Acorn Harvest by going to this QR code that I'm putting in front of your screen right now, or you can go to donate.nativehistoryproject.org. Shameless plug. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And congratulations on the grant. Our next speaker.
That was our last speaker.
Oh, okay. So with that, I will close oral communications non-agenda item, and we will move to the consent calendar. These are routine items that can be approved by one motion unless a council member removes items for discussion, and removed items will be called after agenda items. But you don't need to pull an item to object to it or to just ask some clarifying questions. So first off, are there any consent calendar items the council wants to pull? Councilmember Jensen?
No, I'm sorry. I don't want to pull, but I want to.
Okay, okay, Councilmember Desai.
Just noting that I will be recusing myself on 5J and 5Q.
Okay, so this is for
Oh,
polls,
we
but
have
it's,
to explain the nature.
it's no, because it's not time yet, but it will be. The city clerk gives me a script that I'm actually going from. So, but anyway, I think I might have memorized it by now. So no polls. Okay, so then any council questions about items? Is this you, Councilmember Jensen? Okay, yes, Councilmember Jensen.
I have a question, maybe more than one question about 5O, which is the public hearing to consider adoption of the community development block grant.
Okay, let's see. I'm sorry, my iPad is frozen, so I can't see whose item that is. Good evening. Want to introduce yourself?
Simone Falls, Housing and Human Services Manager.
Okay, so your questions, Councilmember Jensen.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm very supportive of CDBG, and I know that HUD has provided a lot of funding for many programs that help our most vulnerable residents. And my question is for you. And as we project, we had a meeting last night, a long meeting, to talk about our budget. just before that meeting, the federal housing and urban development budget was released, and there is some indication that CDBG is going to be a target of the federal government. So I just wanted to get some input. I am going to support this public hearing and the adoption, but what does the future look like for CDBG?
Unfortunately, we don't have much more information than what you have. We received the same notice that it is being proposed by the current administration to be cut, but we know that it also has to pass through Congress before that can be approved. We do have our Assistant City Manager, Amy Wooltridge, is working with the legislative team to advocate for those funds on our behalf. And then we're also looking at contingency plans specifically for our public service grants. If we were to lose those funds, that's about $175,000. For the larger grants, we would have to have a deeper conversation about what that would look like.
Then my other question, and this is just, it's just piling on, as we all know, but thank you for that, Ms. Falls. My other question is, do we have rental assistant housing choice vouchers that those are also going to be targeted from what I understand? And
Those would be part of the Housing
Housing
Authority's
Authority.
portfolio.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have some questions about item 5E. And 5E of this iPad is a recommendation to authorize the city manager to execute, city manager to execute memorandum of understanding between the school district and the city of Alameda for exterior property management. Good evening. Would you like to introduce yourself while I wait for my finicky iPad to come up? There, it just did. Why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Alicia. I'm one of the base reuse managers.
Thank you, Ms. Strauch. So my questions, and I think I'm probably still a little grouchy from the budget hearings last night because we just don't, I mean, they were very well presented by staff, but there's just not enough money to go around. And what Councilmember Jensen just said, it's like every day we, get some zinger from DC and it just kind of keeps us off balance. So when I was reading this proposal and this, do you want to just briefly describe what this is about?
Yeah, so the Alameda Unified School District actually owns a portion of property at Alameda Point. It's a little over 19 acres and it has quite a few buildings on it. Namely, one of the larger buildings is known as Building 17, and it's the old bachelor office or quarters.
Yeah.
And the property sat vacant. The bachelor officers quarters, Building 17, is quite a target for trespassing. It's probably the building I spend the most time with security and with police. It's very inviting because it used to be housing.
Right.
So what this agreement does is it allows us to continue to provide exterior property management services to the school district for their property. And really, that's the most cost-efficient way to do it for the school district, to have the city continue to do this. And it's also beneficial to us because it allows us to at least have some control over the exterior condition of the property and the security of it. That was a long answer.
No, that was very helpful. And so what caught my eye is this agreement is a 10-year agreement that has just expired. So we're being asked to renew it for another 10 years. But the catch for me is that the school district hasn't been paying for the maintenance we have, and it has gotten costly. And as you said, there's been a lot of vandalism. All the copper, the plumbing has been stripped out, constant police calls. And so now this is, and the staff estimates that these services cost the city approximately $5,000 a month or $60,000 a year. And you can do the simple math for the last 10 years, that was $600,000 that we comped. But in that time, and I don't know, maybe the school district tried to sell the property, but what I am wondering is, would it be possible for city staff to work with the school district? And I know, I will say, I think we're in a good place with the school district. It hasn't always been that way. I give Assistant City Manager Amy Wooldridge, back when she was Recreation Parks Director, and you did a lot of work with their facilities manager, and things just got back on track, and I've just seen a really nice improvement. But my concern is there's no skin in the game for the school district, and I know they need money, and this is, as you said, over 19 acres of land. Is there a way we could encourage them to do that sort of transaction? Because our budget could use some help. And City Manager?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about this. I think we could talk to them and maybe offer some of our technical assistance. I'm not, it would ultimately be the school board's decision in terms of how they do that. But I think we could encourage them if, based on some of these comments, to try to find a way to dispose of the property or sell the property so that there isn't this long-term liability for both parties, to be honest. And so we'd be happy to reach out to them and talk to them about how we could help and support them in moving towards disposition.
That sounds great. And I mean, do you think they should be contributing? Well, there is actually a repayment plan, isn't there, for the, okay, over time. All right. And I think Councilmember Jensen and then Vice Mayor Pryor have their hands up.
I just wanted to point out that there may be considerations with the district selling any property because there are legal requirements that a charter school would be able to use surplus property in California. So this may be exempt. I don't know the details, but usually when I was on the school board, we were required to allow if there was a charter that was interested, allow it to use any property that wasn't being used for classrooms or by the school district.
And Councilmember Jensen, you are correct. So I have talked with them and they shared with me that back in 2020, they were able to put forth a recommendation to at least declare Building 17 as surplus property. And in 2021, they did do a RFP. They released a request for proposals to try and sell Building 17, but they did not get any market interest in it at that time. So they did express to me that they have put forth the recommendation. It has been determined at least 17 to be surplus, and they are kind of seeing how things develop out on the base.
And Vice Mayor Pryor?
This is going to sound extremely aggressive, but I haven't seen the building. So what popped in my head was like a dilapidated building. It's not safe. They're trespassers. So I just was like, would it be
You got it.
efficient to knock it down? Anyway, that sounds super aggressive. That's why I was like, well, maybe it's not dilapidated. So anyway, so I apologize. I just, what I was imagining, I was like, is it safe? And that was
Yeah.
my thought, was that it.
City
it being
Manager
vacant,
can address that.
Yeah,
Question.
it is a contributor to the Nationally Registered Historic Districts that was nominated and ultimately registered by the Navy before they transferred the property to us, which isn't to say you can't demolish it, but it is a very onerous process and for good reason. It is one of the more kind of buildings that has a lot of meaning in terms of the historic use of that property. So I think it's probably less likely to be torn down easily or soon.
And then it's been vacant for at least 10 years?
Oh, probably over 10 years, as long as the base, I
Oh.
don't think it's ever been reused.
Since the
That I
bank
know
closed in
of.
96. Yeah. The settlement was 2004, but yeah. Well, here is my feeling. I'm not feeling warm and fuzzy. At some point, the school district needs to take responsibility for school district property, but let's see what you can do with talks and go from there. Okay, anyone else? Okay, thank you. Those are just my questions and that's a big help. All right, yes, ma'am.
If I might, does the school district, do they assume liability for this property for?
As
Okay.
part of our agreements, they've assumed all liability for the property and they'll also provide us updated proof of insurance.
Great.
Liability insurance.
Thank you. Okay, so any other clarifying questions about consent items that anybody has? Okay, then Madam Clerk, I think you have some announcements.
I do. There are 3 public hearings on the consent calendar today. The first is the public hearing to consider the Community Development Block Grant Home Partnership Investment Program for 5-year strategic plan. The next is confirming the
Right, tell
park.
the item number.
Oh, yes, O, P, and Q. That was O. And then P is a resolution confirming the Park Street Business Improvement Area Report for fiscal year 25, 26, and levying assessment on the Park Street Business Improvement Area. And then Q is confirming the Webster Street Business Improvement Area Report for fiscal year 25, 26, and levying assessment on the Webster Street Business Improvement Area. And so now is the time for public comments on all 3 of those public hearings that are on the consent calendar.
All right. Well, and I was going to call for public speakers. So do we have any public speakers on any of the items?
We do, and they all 3 happen to be on O. But,
Okay.
the first is Carol Mayer.
Welcome, Speaker Mayor. Hi.
Good evening, Mayor, City
Hello.
Council members, and city staff. My name is Carol Mahar. I am the Development Director at Spectrum Community Services. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak and for the recommendation of CDBG funding to support Senior Meals Program. So Spectrum has proudly served Alameda County for over 50 years. And in the city of Alameda, we operate our Senior Meals Program at Mastic Senior Center, where we served nearly 15,000 meals last year. This program provides more than just a nutritious meal. It offers a place for older adults to connect, to socialize, and maintain their independence and well-being. Across the country, senior nutrition programs are struggling to keep up with demand. Cost of food, labor, and fuel continues to rise, and funding is uncertain, it's limited, and more communities are seeing wait lists form, which is forcing older adults to go without meals and social connection that they need. At Spectrum, we are committed to doing everything we can to prevent that from happening here in Alameda. So during our March for Meals campaign, which several of you participated in, we asked our participants to share what the Senior Meals Program means to them through a paper plate art project. And one senior wrote, "This meal is the highlight of my day. I come here for the food, but I stay for the people." These heartfelt messages remind us that food insecurity and isolation are not abstract issues. They affect real people in our community every day. So we are deeply grateful to the city of Alameda for your continued support through CDBG funding. Your investment helps ensure that older adults in Alameda have consistent access to nutritious meals, community, and care. So if you know someone who can benefit from our program, please refer them to our website. It's spectrumcs.org. And thank you for your time and for supporting our senior neighbors.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
So we now have 2 remote speakers. So the time limit's going to lower to 2 because we've gone over our limit.
Okay.
But I'll do the 2 in person still and then go to the remote. Liz Varela.
Welcome, Speaker Varela, but she's in person.
Yes. in person.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and staff. I'm Liz Varela. I'm Executive Director of Building Futures, and we provide domestic violence, homeless, and housing services here in Alameda. Of course, I would like to thank the city for their years of support for our services and programs. CDBG funds have supported the Midway Shelter, which is a 25-bed shelter for women and children for the last 36 years. This year, we are facing a $35,000 cut. So we are getting $35,000 less than we got last year. We understand that we are facing looming federal cuts, but what it does for a program like Midway is put us in a vulnerable position, because not only are we facing this cut, but we're facing cuts for all the other funding sources that contribute to the Midway budget. And what that means is we're vulnerable. So last year we were faced with a very big budget gap. We went to the county, to the city, people came forward. So we're waiting to hear from the county if they're going to do that again. And we're anticipating cuts to our other funding. So just want to say, I know communities have such a hard we're facing such a hard budget outlook, and we're going to have really hard conversations. What are we going to keep whole or keep going, and what are we going to let go? And so I'm very willing to have that conversation with folks if we have a community meeting or meet one-on-one, because I think we are going to have to come down to those kinds of decisions. With a homeless shelter, it's either it's open or it's closed. You can only cut so much before you can't do it anymore. We also applied for and got CDBG capital funding for Bessie Coleman Court, which is 52 units of permanent housing on the base. Thank you so much for this capital funding. We're facing infrastructure issues because how old it is out in the base. And this is really going to help us keep it open.
Thank you so much.
you.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Laura McGinnis.
Welcome, Speaker McGinnis. Hi.
Hi, nice to meet you. My name is Laura McInnes. I'm the managing attorney at Family Violence Law Center. And I want to thank you and the city of Alameda for recommending our funding for the fiscal year of 2025 to 2026. Just want to say that FVLC is a small nonprofit organization and the only domestic violence legal organization in the East Bay that provides free legal services to survivors of domestic violence. FVLC serves survivors of domestic violence, stalking, and sexual assault with wraparound services that are critical to serving their needs, including housing case management, shelter, rental assistance, and legal services and full-scale representation in family court. Your funding assists our clients with critical life-saving services. Like I said, access to safe and affordable housing, financial stability, critical referrals, and legal services to maintain the safety, well-being, and stability for clients and their families, including their children. In a period where our federal funding is very well under attack, as you all know, our agency relies more and more on various funding streams to continue to provide these life-saving services that our community desperately relies on. And the city of Alameda offers one of those much-needed funding sources right now. And we very much thank you so much for that and urge you to adopt the grant. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker
is remote, Kyle Sinkoff.
Oh, welcome, Speaker Sinkoff.
Hi. Can you hear me okay?
We can. Hi.
Hi. So my name is Kyle Sinkoff, and I'm speaking for the proposal for the continued CDBG full funding for Alameda Family Services part-time therapist. This therapist provides services at Alameda High, Encinal High, and Island High, and at no cost for students and families. In Alameda County's current community health needs assessment, Alameda Unified School District youth were highlighted as having the lowest rates of social connectedness in the county, an indicator towards suicidality, mental illness, chronic absenteeism, and substance use. This is only further compounded by the current socio-political climate and the active threat towards our LGBTQ+ and BIPOC communities, which the majority of youth we serve identify as. Additionally, many of the youth we serve under the CDBG contract are in foster care, unhoused, experiencing food insecurity, and are steeped in active family conflict. In the report, they explicitly state that the racial and ethnic minorities have less access to mental health services and are less likely to receive needed care and are more likely to receive poor quality care when treated. We see the need not just as community members, partners, and contractors, but also in the hundreds of students referred through our 3 school-based health centers each year, which clearly indicate the continued need for increased counseling support and access to mental health services. Dedicated funding reserved for those who meet eligibility requirements will help ensure that students and families who are already experiencing financial hardship will not need to struggle or be excluded from access to high-quality mental health support. Without the addition of the CDBG funds, our ability to serve this vulnerable population of students would be eliminated. Thank you so much for your invaluable support of Alameda's youth and appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Bridget Schultz.
Welcome, Speaker Schultz.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council and staff. I'm speaking on behalf of Eden INR 211 Alameda County as their development manager. Firstly, we just want to say how grateful we are for the city's longstanding support. 211 is the 24/7 multilingual phone line that links people, especially those in crisis and the most vulnerable in Alameda County, to life-saving information and resources they need. Last fiscal year, 211 handled 2,110 calls and two-way text conversations from the city of Alameda and provided 5,159 health, housing, and human services referrals. This included screening for 158 literally homeless callers to the appropriate housing resource centers, through the county's coordinated entry system. The number one need for which Alameda residents contact 211 year after year is housing. The 2024 homeless point in time count identified 264 homeless individuals in the city of Alameda. A loss of housing through eviction or foreclosure was the most commonly reported reason, and job loss was the most second. Programs like 211 help address these gaps by acting as a vital entry point and a safety net, providing residents with direct connections to services like the Midway Shelter, emergency food distribution, transportation, job resources, and mental health care. Other top needs last fiscal year included legal services, mental health assessment and treatment, and public assistance programs such as CalFresh and Medi-Cal. That's just a brief snapshot of some of the data and needs of the city's callers. Should council be interested, we're always happy to provide more detailed information. Your funding will ensure that no call goes unanswered. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
That was the last.
Okay, wow. Council comments. I want to just quickly say, so I was in DC part of last week, and the symposium I attended really emphasized that we need to be reaching out to our federal representatives. And so I would like us to reach out to our senators' offices, Schiff, Adam Schiff, and Alex Padilla, and our great new council member, Latifah Simon. We just really need to tell these stories and make sure that they're amplifying the voices in DC. I have to think this is not a red state, blue state kind of issue, that, you know, hunger is hunger. And anyway, other comments. Let's start on my right side. Anything from you, Councilmember Desog?
No, I think what's on the agenda is fine. I will, of course, have to recuse myself from 2 items.
As noted, yes.
Should I announce it reason now?
Sure.
Okay.
Is that? Yeah.
For 5J, it's because the northeast corner of my house touches the map boundary lines of that area. And for 5Q, my house is within the BIA for Webster Street.
Thank you. Anything?
I don't
from-
pay the fees because only businesses pay fees.
Anything from you, Councilmember Bowler?
No, thank you.
All right, Vice Mayor Pryor?
I just wanted to, I just appreciate all the work that people have done that are, have applied for the grant. And I just wanted to just say that.
And this is on the whole consent calendar, but that's fine because we just had the speakers. And Councilmember Jensen?
the CDBG program through the Housing and Urban Development is critical in many ways. These grants are just one aspect of the funding that comes from the federal government to support vulnerable populations through rent support, through nutrition support, through social activities. And it's just sad that we're even having this conversation. I definitely am going to support these grants, support moving forward, and do whatever I can to support the agencies that are receiving the grants and all agencies in Alameda that are serving these vulnerable populations that are more at risk now than ever.
Great. Would you like to make a motion to approve the consent
I
calendar?
definitely would like to make a
And
motion to
there's-
assume the consent calendar.
And with the recusals as noted, and who will second? And Councilmember Bowler will second. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed, any abstentions? Hearing none, that consent calendar passes unanimously. And so then we move on to item 7, regular agenda items. Madam Clerk, would you introduce item 7A, please?
Recommendation to accept the Social Service Human Relations Board work plan for fiscal year 25-26.
You're going to miss all the fun, everybody. Good night. Thank you for being here. Good to see you. Bye-bye. It's going to get lonely in here. I know. They know they're in good hands.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome. And you want to introduce yourself, please?
Yes. Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council members. I'm Samantha Green. I'm Vice President of the Social Services and Human Relations Board. Joining me tonight for the presentation is our President, Scott Means. So this evening, we're here to present the Social Services Human Relations Board 2025-26 work plan for City Council's approval. We'll briefly review the role of Social Services Human Relations Board, or SHRUB as we like to call ourselves, our focus for this current fiscal year, and where we see our work going in 25-26. This year's work plan includes work that will be continuing, such as the work on housing and homelessness in Alameda, Alamedans United Against Hate, a focus on addressing domestic violence, and overseeing the community development block grants. We also foresee new work as we engage in becoming an age-friendly city and begin the process of our next community needs assessment as we recognize the need for local data when federal data may become limited. So as a brief reminder, the Social Services Human Relations Board's purpose is kind of twofold. It's to create an environment which will encourage and bring about mutual understanding and respect and goodwill among groups of people in the community, and to improve social services in the community. Our duties are outlined in the municipal code to adopt a plan for the performance of its functions with the advice and consent of City Council, and to meet at least once a year to review the plan. So here we are. So just a really quick review of last year's work. Last year's work plan largely focused on 3 areas. The first was dedicated to addressing housing insecurity and homelessness in the city of Alameda. This included helping to complete the first annual update to the Road Home, a 5-year strategic plan to end homelessness in Alameda, and presenting the findings to City Council earlier this year. We're continuing to present this report to local and regional community groups and organizations, along with the local point in time count data to kind of develop a conversation about affordable housing and homelessness in the community. Our work group also identified the need for a resident advisory board at Dignity Village. And Scott is now facilitating that group. The board has been around for the better part of a year and working to ensure that residents have a voice and can participate fully. Our second committee, Alamedans United Against Hate, with an updated name, is continuing to bring their work to the community, bringing folks together by participating in community events and stakeholder meetings. In 2024 and 2025, SHRUB participated in the Poetry Slam events held during National United Against Hate Week. And in 2025, SHRUB supported a season for nonviolence and speech contest just recently. It was their hope to bring a revised Alamedans Together Against Hate resolution to council this year. While that work is continuing, that's going to be extended into 2025-26. Finally, our last working group in 2024-25, the Domestic Violence Work Group conducted a brief landscape study of service providers working to alleviate domestic violence in the community. In 2025, the Domestic Violence Work Group created a list of all of these providers and then worked with Alameda Collaborative for Children, Youth, and Families, ACCYF, to house that list on their website. It's a resource page that's available to all community members. Through this work, the group also recognized a significant underlying cause of domestic violence and began work on a study of mental health service providers in the community. This looked at a list of providers as well as what insurance and payment plans they required for services. And it's hoped that this work will allow a Social Services Human Relations Board to better understand the current challenges faced by mental health system locally and develop recommendations for council in the future. So there's a brief look at what we did last year and we'll continue to do until our work plan begins in July. And Scott will talk more about what we would hope to accomplish.
Thank you, Ms. Green. Nice report.
I'll use this for now. Thank you. Good evening.
Welcome.
For the upcoming fiscal year, SHRUB is proposing the following areas of focus that arose and expanded its work from the most recent community needs assessment. The first item actually, hold on, I want to make sure. Yeah, I got the right one. The first item requires some clarification. The SHRUB prepared the 2023 Community Needs Assessment to gain a better understanding of the community as a whole, to assess the need of all community members, and to provide more effective oversight to city efforts. The board looked at more than 50 indicators across 11 domains, collecting data by age, race, ethnicity, household type, and gender were available and relevant. Upon further review of our work plan, the SHRUB realized that the community needs assessment is completed every 5 years. So what this means is that the Shrub will not be creating the next CNA until 2027, 28, even though it indicates 2025. What we are going to start to do in 2025, however, is, and before we create the next community needs assessment, we'll be doing the next 2 years is to collect data from areas and people in Alameda that were underrepresented or missed altogether in the last community needs assessment. For example, Age Friendly Alameda will collect more detailed and diverse information about seniors. I have reached out to the Disabilities Commission as well. There will be more. Moving to the other goals, Age Friendly Alameda is focused on a livable communities for people of all ages. In-person stakeholder meetings and a community survey are 2 specific goals. Recognizing the urgent need to focus on housing and homelessness, Shrub will continue to promote the road home strategies through community presentations and other media. Domestic violence was identified as a major issue in Alameda. Shrub hosts a task force to coordinate domestic violence prevention and intervention services in the city and the community to take a collaborative role. In continuance with these efforts, Shrub is addressing the cause and effects of domestic violence and supporting community solutions. The community needs assessment indicated mental health and connectedness as a major issue. The Human Relations Subcommittee will continue to work with Alamedans Together Against Hate, while also creating opportunities for social interactions and engage in policy work. Alamedans United Against Hate, age-friendly communities, and other social connection points create a human relations network of inclusion for people of all ages, races, abilities, and financial status. Alamedans Together Against Hate was created in response to race and other bias-motivated incidents and hate crimes in Alameda. The Human Relations Alameda Together Against Hate work group has coordinated with other city initiatives to promote positive human relations. This includes current work on a council resolution for 2025. Shrub will continue to participate in poetry slam events to be held during the National United Against Hate Week and the Season for Nonviolence and Speech Contest. Shrub representatives are active participants in the monthly CARES meeting that includes many Alameda social service providers. Shrub recommends continuing their focus on collaboration and community-based organizations and events to combat hate and isolation. An early product of age-friendly communities is an Alameda volunteer list. This is a list of agencies who provide volunteer engagement opportunities, and it is currently available in Massac Senior Center at Encinal High School. Shrub recommends it to be hosted on an Alameda webpage. Fun fact about the volunteer list. Well, it was initiated by older seniors at Mastic who are retired and looking for things to do. There's another group of teenage seniors using the same list to complete their volunteer requirements for high school. Age-friendly communities benefit people of all ages. Moving on to the road home. Under the proposed 2025-26 work plan, some of the activities for the people experiencing homelessness work group will include producing an update and community listening session on the road home progress and goals, continuing to address the Road Home Strategy 3.1, engage the community in regional crisis homelessness, engage a stakeholder and advocacy by attending meetings with social service providers and support groups addressing the needs of Alameda residents who are unhoused. A specific support system deserving attention is the Dignity Village Advisory Board. And I do need, is it possible to get 2 more minutes?
Let's pause the clock if we could. Is it 2 more that you need?
Yes, that's the most I would need.
Okay, so what we need is a motion from the council and at
So
least
moved.
4 people. It's been moved by Councilmember
Second.
Jensen, seconded by Vice Mayor Pryor to add 2 more minutes to whatever time was remaining. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, 2 minutes you have in addition to the 45 seconds.
Thank you so much. And it'll allow me to cover some things I think are very important that are happening at Dignity Village.
So go right ahead.
Okay, here we go. Dignity Village Resident Advisory Board is supported by Shrub and city staff, provides a voice for residents to advocate for their needs, including consistent standards for resources such as communal spaces and food. It allows them to develop a code of conduct for behavioral standards among their residents. This has to do with noise, guests coming in and out, and pets, a lot of it. And also to advocate for expedited transition to permanent housing, things like clear requirements, need for guides and case managers. The Dignity Village Advisory Board continues to provide feedback through the transition of 3 different providers over the last year. Dignity Village Resident Advisory Board hopes that Operation Dignity will provide the consistency and follow-through needed for equitable treatment and successful transition of Dignity Village residents into permanent housing. Moving to domestic violence. The Domestic Violence Work Group will continue to assist in the organization and participation in the annual People's March. Under the work plan, the City of Alameda staff support the Domestic Violence Work Group, will reconvene, lead, and support semi-annual task force meetings, which are used to develop and implement common goals to reduce domestic violence. And they will continue similar outreach activities during Domestic Violence Awareness Month in October and Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month in February. So on behalf of the Social Service and Human Relations Board, we recommend that you accept the work plan for fiscal year 2025-26. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Council, and Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
We do not.
Okay, well, we will close public comment then. So we will just go to council questions, comments. Councilmember Jensen, would you like to start?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I actually do have start with a question. Can you tell me, you heard earlier, you were here when we discussed the public hearing about CDBG grants. Can you tell me how the community needs assessment relates to if it relates or how it relates to the federal community development block grant?
I had to recuse myself.
Oh, okay. And I see, staff, did you want to come up to address that? And just please introduce yourself and make that microphone yours. Yes.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and council members and staff. My name is Grecia Manayon. I'm a program manager for Housing and Human Divisions. The community needs assessment does feed into, it gives us an idea of what gaps there are in the social services needed in our community. So then it does inform the recommendations that are made for CDBG.
Thank you. And it's obvious that the Road Home, Alameda's Together Against Hate, the domestic violence are all areas that we're looking towards providing funding through CDBG and elsewhere. Well, then my next question is, I know this staff can answer this because you were probably watching last night when we talked about the budget. So this is for the Shrub Committee. I wanted to actually, it's not exactly a question, but I hope that you watched or noted that last night we had a budget meeting for the city council. And just to let you know too, that the city council is concerned, and the city manager as well in leadership in addressing these issues through whatever available funds we have there, especially with regard to supporting victims of domestic violence through our city attorney's prosecution unit, with regard to Alamedans Against Hate and supporting all of our Alameda residents regardless of immigration status, and of course the Road Home critical programs for finding housing, supporting and continuing housing for Alameda residents. So thank you for all you do, and I definitely support this recommendation for the roadmap and the Shrub work plan.
Thank you. Anything further, Vice Mayor Pryor?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. A couple of times it was mentioned the underlying cause of domestic violence. I wasn't sure if this is something you are investigating. I don't know if that's the correct word. And and where are you in the process? Are you gathering data? Are you making a plan? Are you setting goals? I was just wondering how that is.
So because we realize that we have a longer timeline than anticipated, we want to be really thoughtful about the kind of metrics that we'll be collecting. So our first step will be to determine what those metrics will be. So it'll be based off of the community needs assessment from last year. And then there will be discussions with other partner providers or departments and what other metrics we should consider. So right now it's very much building out the type of data that we would like to collect and then moving into collecting the data towards the second half of the fiscal year, I believe.
Oh, great. And then, at the beginning, it was mentioned that there's a five-year plan to track this. I guess that this plan gets renewed every 5 years. So I was just wondering where that 5-year number came from, or if you guys thought about, is it because you just need the longevity to track data? And it was just a general question.
Yeah, I mean, historically, it's been every 5 years. That's what we're basing on. So we would actually start in 2027 with the report delivered in 2028.
I mean, those are my questions.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Anything from this side of the dais? Councilmember Bowler, please.
I just wanted to give a little bit of feedback on the work plan because that's kind of our task today. I just want to, commend the Shrub Board for all your hard work on this. And I think it's particularly exciting that you're doing this community needs assessment just to see a new vision for where we're at. But if any of us who do work in the community, all of these 4 other initiatives are obviously things that we're very interested in. They build on some success that you've already had and documented from last year. I think that's really exciting. I want to focus on the domestic violence for a second because I'm a 24-year prosecutor, and approximately 7 years of my work has been full-time working on domestic violence. I still work with survivors of violence, but sexual violence now, and human trafficking. But I think that the focus here on the preventative and the education piece is extremely important. I think that's exactly what our community needs to make substantial progress, because the last thing we want to do is hear about a police report or a response to a home. We want to prevent that. We want to avoid it. So I commend the board for its work in this area.
Thank you. Councilmember Desai.
Well, thank you very much. In kind of giving my 2 cents on your work plan, I think one very, very specific area that I would hope to see the Shrub Board take leadership on is kind of educating our community with regard to the challenges that transgender individuals specifically face, LGBTQ community generally, but the transgender community specifically. And that I would hope that the board consider reaching out to other boards like the Recreation Board and having joint meetings to kind of brainstorm ideas as to, what are the specific ways that we can make the assets that we ourselves control more welcoming to everyone, but in a very mindful, intentional, affirmative way. Not just this, well, everyone's welcome, but be very specific as to who we're reaching out to and trying to educate about. So that's one very specific area that I hope to see the Shrub deal with. And I know, now that you have your Alameda and United Against Hate organization, that was a really big thing, and I think, 25 years ago, 1997, 1998, but here we are again. And so I think I would love to see you guys work on that.
Right. And I'll just add to say, I second what everyone else has said. I am so grateful to the Shrub. I know what outstanding backgrounds you all come from. I think I've probably selected most, if not all, the Shrub Board, but I mean, there's so many, no, but it's a very, we have amazing applicants in Alameda. We just have such a smart, talented, but generous and giving community. But we get a lot of applications for this particular board. I know we have an opening to fill right now. But I really do thank you for your time because you're putting in lots of hours. And thank you so much. And keep up all the good work. I think the work you're doing becomes even more important than it already was, given the current not only uncertainties, I just feel like it's an attack on social services and services for the most vulnerable among us. So we're going to need all the safety nets and just, plan Bs that we can come up with. So you're out there with us on the front line. So thank you for all you do. And yes, I will be supporting this. Thank you so much. So sounds like we should ask for a motion.
So moved.
No,
Motion is
Councilmember.
to recommend.
This is to also recommend that that we adopt, that we accept the Social Service Human Relations Board Work Plan for fiscal year 25-26.
So moved.
It's been moved by Councilmember Buller, seconded by Vice Mayor Pryor. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Of course not. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you all so much for all your good work. Take care. All right, Madam Clerk, do you want to please introduce item 7B?
Recommendation to authorize the city manager to execute a new service provider agreement with Alameda Family Services to provide clinician and case management services for the Community Assessment Response and Engagement Team covering July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2028 for a total not to exceed amount of 1.6 million and receive an update on Care Team 2024 operations.
Good evening. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, and city staff. My name is Cody Moxley. I'm the Deputy Chief of Operations for the Fire Department. And I'm here tonight to provide a detailed update on the 2024 operations of the Care Team, which, as you know, is a critical city program addressing mental health. So also, and most importantly, here requesting approval to renew the service agreement with Alameda Family Services, AFS, to continue clinical field support and case management. So quickly, I just want to take a look back and just before the Care Team was around, before that Care Team existed, first responders, emergency personnel responded to mental health situations and were ill-equipped, did not have the adequate training, did not have the resources to properly get patients to the care facility or to facilities that they needed to get the end results that we're after, and ultimately to support their mental health. In 2021, through council support, AFD partnered with AFS launching the Care Team pilot program, providing 24/7 trained paramedics and professional mental health clinicians to allow for effective outcomes. AFS became the contractual partner to provide field services, case management, training to support the Care Team. So what Care Team does, Care Team exists to provide 24/7 services with firefighters trained to conduct psychiatric evaluations and place as needed, place clients on legal holds, 5150 holds or 5585 holds for minors. Our firefighters have completed a 5-day mental health responder training, county mandated 5150 and 5585 certification. Also coordinating with AFS, Care gets individuals proper mental health facilities so that ultimately they can get the care and the social services that they need. Care Team firefighters also support the general emergency calls when not engaged in care responses. Services provided by AFS are 24-hour on-call licensed clinicians to support mental health crisis responses alongside Alameda Fire Department, responding to the scene as needed. They assist with diagnostic assessment, safety planning, and AFS also connects the clients to city and county partners. They provide clinical case management and bridge therapy, which basically is taking that short-term care for the client, the care that is needed immediately. They bridge that gap to get them to the more long-term care that is sometimes needed. And then also they assist with program evaluation. They're collecting, reporting data to assess the impact and effectiveness. And they also include training for AFD members. So AFD believes that a partnership with AFS is very important. We support continuing this partnership. AFS submitted the SOLT proposal in 2021 and has proven essential to the care team's success ever since. AFS staff consists of program director, senior clinical case manager, clinical program assistant, quality assurance manager, quality assurance specialist. All of these positions support the care that we're after for the clients. In 2024, care team responded to 1,332 calls. Of these, 1,149 were mental health crisis. Key outcomes for those responses consisted of 46% of those calls resolved on site. So that is care team dealing with the situation and resolving it, but oftentimes contacting AFS and utilizing their resources to resolve the issue and take care of it on scene. 28% were transported for additional care, 8% were psychiatric holds, and then 26% were good intent or unable to locate, meaning we showed up and unable to locate any clients. So I just want to highlight 3 client success stories from 2024, and there's many more that we could point to. So client 1 was a 28-year-old client placed on a psychiatric hold for substance abuse challenges. AFS conducted case management. They are now attending therapy on a regular basis. Client 2 was a teen with family grief issues that AFD Field Resources and AFS were able to de-escalate, referring to family to therapy, reducing significant conflict within the home. And then client 3 was a student expressing suicidal thoughts at school. Assessed by AFD Resources and taken to a crisis unit. Follow-up care consisted of youth and family counseling, primarily coordinated and monitored through AFS. These are just 3 of the many success stories in 2024 that I just wanted to highlight. Some of the client demographics. Care team continued to respond to a broad spectrum of race and ethnic clients. Gender identity consisted of primarily, the majority were male clients, 50.8. Female clients were 46.9. Transgender and gender nonconforming were 2.3. Of the age groups, the largest group responded to was age group 30 to 49. Some key program achievements in 2024. Care Court became active in Alameda County. And so as a result of that, AFD, AFS, and APD successfully enrolled the client into Care Court, preventing incarceration. So through that collaboration with Care Court, the team successfully transitioned a client into a structured court-ordered treatment as an alternative to incarceration, fostering long-term care for this client. The CARE program was also awarded Alameda County EMS Program of the Year, which is a huge badge of honor, and we have to attribute much of that success also to AFS. Also, members completed updated training for psychiatric holds and de-escalation training, establish a prepaid phone program, which ultimately ensures that the clients that we are responding to can continue that communication with AFS, so that once the care team leaves the scene, that communication is still happening, even if they don't typically have those resources. And then also, we secured a $963,000 grant through the Department of Justice. It's the burn grant. So we've utilized that, and we're getting funds for that right now. 2025 vision and targets consist of AFD and AFS creating a brochure to help clients and family understand the care process during psychiatric holds. Also expanding and strengthening partnerships with AFS, AFD, Alameda County Behavioral Health, Alameda County EMS, the Alameda Unified School District, just to name a few, along with other city departments. Also identifying and securing sustainable funding sources through local, state, and federal opportunities. Enhancing field operations, so expanding clinician support and follow-up care. Enhancing data collection processes by including new tracking points, also monitoring long-term outcomes and refining program evaluation to effectively address the growing demands for the services. So in closing, our recommendation is for council to authorize city manager to execute a service provider agreement with AFS for clinician and case management services to support the care team, covering the term July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2028, for a total amount not to exceed $1,681,886. First year would be just over $535,000. Second year, $561,000. Third year, $584,000. So again, our request is that you support the city's. We're supporting the city's strategic goal. to
Can we,
enhance quality.
we can vote to give you another minute to wrap up.
Oh, I'm pretty much done. So that's pretty
Okay,
much it.
the end. Thank you for that. Council, any clarifying questions?
May I?
Please, Councilmember Bowler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Deputy Chief Moxley. We really appreciate the presentation, the information. In terms of some of the evaluation and data that you're tracking, do you have any basic sense of the average response time for the AFS workers when there's an on-scene need?
That is a great question. We do have Karen here with AFS who could probably address that. Okay.
And you were asking Councilmember Bowler how long it takes the care team to get to a call?
No, the AFS, when there's a need to go on scene, which I think is part of their contract, is they come on scene on
Okay.
occasion.
All right.
Yeah.
Come on up and introduce yourself,
Hi, I'm
please.
Karen Zeltzer. I'm the Division Director.
And
of
you
Crisis-
need to speak into the
Sorry.
microphone to make it.
Hi, my name is Karen Zeltzer. I'm the Division Director of Crisis Services at Alameda Family Services. The vast majority of our consultations are actually done by phone. During the pilot, I wasn't sure how this was going to work, and it has actually worked incredibly well and has allowed us to have a seamless, uninterrupted on-call consultations 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There have been approximately 3 in-person requests, and per our contract, as well as our training and anticipation of need, it has taken no more than 20 minutes to get on site to support clients and the care team, paramedics and EMTs on the scene.
Thank you so much. What about for the phone contact? I know that's going to depend on the client too, right? Of course, but can you give us a general sense of how that goes in terms of the average time it takes to make that contact when it's successful?
So generally what happens is for a portion of the calls, when the paramedics and EMTs have enough information to start to anticipate planning, assessment, safety planning, or alternative transports, sometimes they contact us en route with sharing the information. We pick up immediately. We all share an app on our phones, and they work like do not disturb or active calls, and all of us on our shifts turn it to active. So it's only going to one on-call clinician who has the phone with them per stipend at all times. So they immediately respond, or if they happen to be in a situation where they have to get to a private corner or place a child down, they text that they're going to need an additional minute or two, and will be responding. So they're acknowledging that they received a call. So there'll be some planning that happens. The paramedics and EMTs arrive on the scene. Often they'll call us back when they have done an assessment with further questions. We may listen to the assessment, have our own recommendations for further questioning, safety planning strategies, discussion around if someone is meeting criteria, alternative transport locations such as respite respite like Amber House, which is a county-run facility, versus a high acuity lock facility. Sometimes they call us, on scene when they're in the midst of it or near the end of their determination. And again, we answer immediately and engage in a dialogue to come to a conclusion that feels satisfactory. They're obviously the ones on the scene, and they can give us a lot of details and a lot of flavor. Sometimes it's based on their sharing that we're able to have a collaborative communication. Sometimes on-call clinicians are wanting more information and having their own ability to do assessments. So often the paramedics are very happy to put us on speaker where we're engaging with youth, families, adults, to ask our own assessment, further questions, maybe even repeat questions just to get a better flavor of the answers. And so not hearing it through the paramedics experience, but directly from the clients. We'll often engage in the safety planning on speakerphone. And sometimes it's a kind of a divide and conquer situation where the paramedics may want to take a youth into another room and have a discussion, and we'll be on the phone with the parent, providing support and engagement. Sometimes it's, soothing and de-escalating other people that are part of the scene. Sometimes it's reassuring family members, whether it's parents or the adult children of, or siblings or roommates, that we explaining our follow-up case management services and ensuring that we will be in touch with them the next day to begin assessment and linkage services if they're willing to engage in those voluntary services. And so it's a very immediate process for on-call support.
And also like the average length of follow-up, or I don't know how you quantify it, but some sense of it, because the question would be based in the following is sort of the interest in, as a professional in mental health, do you feel like there's any enhancements that could be made, or do you feel like the way the partnership exists now, where the clients are getting sufficient follow-up, and do you have any suggestions for improvement?
Yes. So for those who are willing to engage in follow-up services, the case management portion is really excellent. From the beginning of the program, the case managers had a very good sense of resources. And all I can say is that on a weekly basis, we're expanding our knowledge of county resources and specific needs. We're doing Google detective work to find just the right service for unusual circumstances that we haven't come across. We have 5-year-olds all the way up to 97-year-olds, and a variety of challenges that trigger, the immediate crisis. What we did find is that it was extremely long period to connect people to therapy services, whether we first had to apply with them, help them apply for Medi-Cal, and that entire process of collecting papers and submitting forms and having the county, Medi-Cal process work to then be able to link them to county resources. We did a lot of internal referrals. Luckily, we have lots of divisions that you're all aware of, school-based health centers that we can internally refer, family counseling clinics. But those, fill up as well, and there would be a little bit of a wait. Or we had people who had Kaiser, and it was very challenging to advocate for higher levels than once a month group for someone who's, really needing weekly therapy, as well as people who are well-resourced with long wait lists for even private therapists who often tend towards private pay instead of utilizing insurance right now. And so that was a challenge. And so what we did is we created what we call the Bridge Therapy Program, which is we invited interns into our division to provide immediate, rapid connection to therapy within the same week, and to help with stabilization, emotional regulation, stabilization support, conflict resolution, grief, trauma work, whatever was needed, as an interim plan while the case managers were working very hard to create longer term linkages and longer term services. So that was a way that we were able to fill the gap. We just completed our second year of this internship program, and we already have 3 interns set to go for the new year, and also an additional case management intern to support just the numbers of clients that we're receiving on a daily basis. So that I think was the biggest struggle. And this is kind of an interim bandage to support people really rapidly that are in the higher end of needing, not able to wait for long, services to get initiated. So yeah, I feel that the quality of the services is really quite excellent, and people have gotten connected to services. Our follow-up evaluation shows that 80% are very satisfied with the services that we were able to link them to. And of those who responded to the case management satisfaction survey, 100% felt that they had been treated respectfully and that their specific needs were attended to. So it does feel like, thank you. Yeah, we're very proud of this program and our partnership with AFD.
Not the issue, but just the fit in terms of, I noticed that the proposed contract really just mirrors the prior one, if I understand correctly, in terms of the 6 positions and the same allocation in terms of the portion of their jobs that would be devoted to the care team work. So, as being like a steward of the finances, the councils, looks at issues like, are we spending the right amount of money? Do you track the hours each of these persons spend? Are we getting the right fit in terms of their investment of time? Or you could also tell us, well, no, we need more time, but we would want to know both ways, right?
Absolutely. So my case managers, someone asked me recently a very typical question for staff positions and a mental health agency, which is, what is your caseload cap? And it was the only position I could think of where there was no caseload cap. Whatever comes in that next morning from the care team contacts or over the weekend has to be assigned, has to be done significant outreach immediately upon the beginning of the shift, and then assessment and research of correct and appropriate services to link them to. Then they hold that relationship while that person is being referred, going through the intake process, until we are secure that they are connected fully to services before we close the case. The case managers are working tirelessly in terms of monitoring their hours. I'm in the office all the time. I see what everyone is doing. There is no wasted downtime. And of course, I would love to have more case managers. I know the case managers would love if there were more case managers, but I understand that the need to have a reasonable and manageable budget is extremely important, as the priorities are always so present for competing programming and support in the city. And we're continuing to provide the level of service, and our case managers and on-call clinicians have been pretty much the same since our very beginning of the program. We've grown together, we've learned together, and the commitment has been incredible for these particular case managers and on-call clinicians. We are blessed with an incredible staff. So yes, it would be amazing to have additional case management, but what we have is working, and I think the quality of the services are showing that. Yes, I don't know if that was an exact answer that you're looking for, and I'm happy to clarify if I was off for what you were asking.
Very helpful. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anything from you, Councilmember Desa? Any clarifying questions?
No, thank you very much for the presentation.
Great
Appreciate it.
information. But Councilmember Jensen and then Vice Mayor Pryor.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation and great program. I want to follow up on Councilmember Buller's question, and I appreciate the response regarding the average response time for the counselor for Alameda Family Services. I wanted to let you know that as the chief Booby knows, last night, this response time for the care program paramedics came up because we were having a discussion about some challenges at the Alameda Free Library, the main library. And so I wanted to ask about the response time for the paramedic, the care team paramedics and care team initial response. And if that, if there's sufficient resources and if there are times that you found, how often or occasional, when there are times when there is a need for response and the team is unavailable.
Yes, so response times for this unit are really tough to quantify because, I mean, they take the call initially and right away they're contacting AFS, especially if it's a client that they've been on before. They're talking through this case and starting to create a plan oftentimes. I would say on average, their on scene time for these calls is roughly 43.7 minutes. So if they're on a call, then and there's another call that comes about, then sometimes there is that delay. So that is when that happens. But otherwise, when they're available, they respond. So they do respond on other, fire department responses, but our battalion chiefs are pretty aware of the situation. They monitor, the dispatch channel, and as soon as possible, they release them. And oftentimes on some of the fire related calls, we've encountered mental health crises within that call that we can quickly attach them to. So
Chief, you don't feel that there's a need for additional paramedic teams in this area? I mean, you don't feel that there's extended response times that's an issue?
I mean, I have to really look at the numbers and the data to really answer that question. I think they're responding on a good basis. There are a handful of times where I know that the call has to be held until they go available. In an ideal world, yes, there would be a second unit that we could immediately send on that response, but we'd have to look at that.
Thank you.
If I could just stay on that topic of the library, because that was in my notes too. So I don't know if you listened to the budget talk yesterday, but we heard quite a bit from Library Director Mike Eitner, and I see Chief Luby in the wings. So my concern is, and this is a wonderful program, and don't get me wrong, and I'm very pleased to, have been a part of the pilot and, ever since it's been going. And Ms. Seltzer, I mean, what you talked about is just, it's so important. We're so lucky to have this. And yet yesterday, when we heard from our library director, it was really painful to hear that staff feels fearful. They're fearful for their patrons. They feel like they should have a social worker on scene at all times to help protect patrons, although I'm not sure protection is what social workers do. But at the same time, we have this wonderful, impressive, award-winning program. And I do understand you have to use resources when they're needed, but are there times, and is there a way of tracking or collecting the data when care team could be out on fire-related things and say the library calls and needs something? And because it would be lovely to give you all more staff, but I appreciated the recognition of the need to have a manageable budget, because we don't want to cut staff. So we're not at the place of adding a lot, but I just want to make sure that the services we have in place are being used for what they're intended for. And certainly, and I know you're all aware of a terrible incident that occurred when a library staff person was seriously injured with an encounter with a troubled patron. And anyway, I just want to make sure that the care team is available for its intended use, for what we're paying for, as often as possible. How could you address that? And Chief Luby, if you feel you want to come up and speak to that, please do. Come on up.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. Nick Luby, Fire Chief. I was here last night and definitely heard the conversation. I can tell you, I was on the phone first thing this morning with Director Eitner to have further conversation to get a better understanding of what I heard last night with the care team. The care team takes a while to get a better understanding, what presents at the library, to see how we can work together to address the issues that they're running into. I also actually went and met with them this afternoon, did a tour of the library just so I could see firsthand. It's a snapshot, so everything was going well this afternoon at the library. But I see, I can see that where the challenges can be. For the answer to the direct question, that is definitely a data point that we could track. I don't have the data on it now, but it is something that could be trackable when they're committed to either a fire related call or, as I discussed last night, and as Chief Moxley said, average call length is 43 minutes. But when we pulled the data today, and we have calls that exceed 3 hours, depending on where they are transporting to, depending on the complexity of the call. Karen could allude to that better. So it's not only the fire calls, we also have challenges where they're already on a call, an extended call there. Definitely a data point we could get data on. I don't have the data for you now, but we could work on that going forward. As we talked about in the presentation, we're always looking for new data points on that. Going back to the library and conversation I had with Director Eitner, I think there's definitely further conversation we can have. CARE team is a mental health crisis response unit. That's what it was designed for. That's what they were trained for. A lot of the cases that, and speaking, I also spoke with Karen today about the same conversation. A lot of cases that present at the library are not truly in a crisis or presenting as a crisis, but it's still individuals that do need support and could use the services of connectivity to other services there. I think there's most definitely a conversation that needs to be had going forward to see what the best strategy is to address what Director Eitner brought up. So does that help?
It does help. I think what I would be interested in seeing is for the times that, as I understood it, the library called and was told the CARE team wasn't available. Was it because they were out on another CARE team mental health call, or was it because they were out responding to a fire? And I don't know how to do your job.
No, but I will ask the exact same question of Director Eitner this morning to get a better clarity. The example he did provide was, let me back up. When he called on the one he was, I believe, talking about last night, called non-emergency number, spoke to APD dispatch there, explained the situation that he was experiencing. Dispatch in their triage process said, well, that is not meeting the criteria that is of a mental health crisis. It was an individual that had gone in the bathroom and was in the bathroom for an extended period of time. And there was a concern about the individual, which, as I spoke to him today, probably, more of a medical emergency or a welfare check that we could respond on, if we're concerned about someone's health and wellness in there. So again, further conversation, we talked about it today. I gave him some, ideas of when certain situations present of the best way to address it. But the one discussed last night actually was not, the CARE team wasn't available. It didn't meet the criteria for a response the way he had presented it to dispatch.
And I wasn't so much focusing on any one. I do realize he talked about a couple of incidents, but it seemed like it was a little more general that I tend to call the police more often because they come faster than the CARE team. But again, not specific, a little more general description.
We did pull data for 2024. We had 9 responses to the main library for the CARE team in 2024 and 1 response to the West End branch that we did respond out to.
Okay, well, and it sounds like I really appreciate your rapid response follow-up this morning and this afternoon. And I know City Manager and I had a conversation this morning, and I know you're all going to be looking at ways that we can improve the safety, because, the library patrons that also range from little bitty ones all the way up to seniors. And we want everyone to feel safe, but whatever the right tool is, and for people to just be aware of the resources and the availability. And as a steward of our finances, I want to make sure that we're using our resources as effectively as possible for their intended purpose. So anyway.
Really understand,
All
especially with the financial situations. So
it's real.
We understand. And I spoke, like I said, I spoke with them twice today, and we'll continue the conversations. And if ever in doubt, I said, call us. We'll come, we'll either come as an EMS resource with an engine and ambulance, or we'll come with the care team, depending on what the situation is presenting.
All right, that's very nice of you. Thank you. Those were all my questions. Anyone else clarifying questions before we go to public comment? Councilmember Bowler.
Thank you. Chief, I just wanted to follow up on something. Thank you so much. The idea that the care team might be able to have a greater role at the library is interesting. And I'm just curious, to what extent does the care team do ongoing training and de-escalation and other types of things? And would there be an opportunity to collaborate and do some of that training across the street from the library at the police station, work in collaboration with some of the officers who obviously could benefit from that training as well, and thereby also, if you do it in certain key times, might be available to go across the street when needed to the library?
And is that assuming that the police department don't have de-escalation training?
No, not at all. Just that I'm sure that there's ways to collaborate. I would assume it's a question. Just, I don't know if I'm in the ballpark of any a good idea or not, but
I would have to do, I do know the APD has de-escalation training. It's part of, I think, their whole training regiment that they go through when they are hired and through the academy. I don't know, I'd have to defer to Chief Joshi on what their ongoing training is, de-escalation training. I know that we have sent several members to become trained the trainers in what's called PROACT training. Can't remember what the acronym stands for right now. Do you remember? No. But we have sent, and then they have come back and trained all our department in de-escalation training that they, learned there. And then we do refresher training with our members on that. Does that answer the question? Is that
just food for thought more? And you've answered it. Yeah, I'm just trying to, in the spirit of brainstorming, is kind of what we're doing.
Yeah.
Give me just a second. I want to hear from Assistant City Manager Amy Wooldridge.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to add that we have done de-escalation training both at the library and with Recreation and Park staff, and we do it as regularly as we can. But we actually have brought in Karen and for de-escalation trainings as well as other community partners to do de-escalation. So it's something we can continue to do. I would say that kind of work isn't necessarily in the librarian's wheelhouse, right? As much as it may be for care team members. So they do the best that they can, but I just wanted to lift up that we do de-escalation training for them.
Did you want to add anything? Come on up to the microphone so we can all hear you, please.
Yes, I just wanted to speak to that. In addition to the crisis de-escalation trainings, there was a period where it was being identified that there were several individuals that were perpetually at the library that were causing a lot of concerns and intimidation, and that staff had a variety of different styles of interacting with these individuals that were, I guess, being questioned by the library leadership if this is the right way to approach. At the time, Marcy Johnson was a liaison for the care team from AFS and other services like de-escalation trainings, and had initiated a meeting that I had with the library staff. We discussed the individuals. It was kind of like a case consultation where we talked about how they were presenting, what might be best interactions, what might not be beneficial interactions, what might actually be triggering interactions, and how to set appropriate boundaries, when to identify, when to withdraw, get other people involved, when to call care team, when to call APD, or both. And from that conversation, it led to a subsequent meeting with myself and Marcy and the library staff, where I provided mental health consultation on crafting some of the consequences contracts, and when people could be let back into the library based on what improvements or expectations that they had. So these are ways that our care team has been trying to actively support the library. And I do recognize there's things that we're looking, AFD is looking into. And I think that there is a benefit also to education around kind of nuisance behavior, chronic conditions that are very challenging in a public setting with kids, and, trying to have a business, at hand of providing library resources and books and interactions. And there is also a difference between that and an acute mental health crisis. And there have been times where I had advised that they were calling the care team, but I was aware that there was violence happening or that the individual had the propensity for violence due to previous interactions. And I actually requested for Mercy or for people who were calling initially the dispatch to please call back, make dispatch aware that actually this was a individual who had recently physically charged a library staff member, is known to have potentially weapons, and to please have, make it clear that this was happening so that APD could take the lead versus paramedics walking up to the individual, not recognizing or not being informed that they had the potential to be dangerous. So I think that this has been an ongoing conversation, and happy to continue being involved in dialogue with the library of how we can best serve the library and the residents utilizing the library and the population that's struggling with mental health and being unhoused.
Yeah, I think it's just a sign of the times that it's something you just probably wouldn't have, well, I say that you probably wouldn't have even contemplated, except that I've worked in the library arena since 2000 when we did, well, before 2000, really, when we did the library campaign. And I knew back then, so a couple of decades ago, that big city libraries like Sacramento and San Francisco were having these issues, but those were big cities. And so,
exactly. And that they have staffing actually with social workers on site, at these libraries, understanding that it's a safe place for people who don't have other places to go or places that don't feel safe for them to spend their days in. And so, it's a wonderful gift to have a safe environment, and it does draw some challenges.
Yeah, well said. All right, thank you so much. Any other, so, I mean, what we ultimately want to do is to move this along by approving the request for the authorization. Does anyone want to, is there anything further you want to say, or do we have a motion? Oh, I'm so sorry. This was, well, because there were no public comments, this was just question and public comment, question and council comment altogether, but what do you still need to do before we entertain a motion? Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to comment. I just wanted to say the Care Team partnership is such an essential part of how we deal with public safety in Alameda. So my career as a special educator, I work with children who have disabilities, but I also work with teachers and students in counseling enriched programs. And so I know that this is valuable. Because I know my biggest concern for our students and their families is, restraints, arrest, or worse when they're having difficulty in the community. So I just know that I use de-escalation training and it works. It's not intuitive, but and having a partner like AFS, it just makes it work better. And I just really appreciate this. And this is why you guys got an award, because it's pretty great.
I have to say, I'm sorry, Mayor, may I add?
Please.
Not only did the Care Team get the award, Ms. Seltzer actually got Person of the Year by the County EMS Agency. So we got double awards awarded to us in 2024. Was it person? It was person. EMS. EMS Outstanding Citizen. So.
Yeah. Congratulations and well deserved. Councilmember Jensen.
I want to thank Madam Mayor and Councilmember Desag for getting this program passed and adopted a number of years ago. And it is a model. It's really terrific to hear the success stories. And I want to also point out that as Vice Mayor Pryor pointed out, that especially the issues in schools and with young people dealing with with challenges with, especially with grief, especially during and after the pandemic, things that are happening with bullying. And so I want to cite and appreciate the fact that Karen Zeltzer is, and Alameda Family Services has such a strong relationship with AUSD. And so I think that so in supporting this contract and in endorsing the work that Alameda Family Services is doing with Alameda Fire Department, it's really making a difference for our young people in Alameda. And so that's critical. We've talked about the libraries too, and that's another place where a lot of our young people are going because they can't go home or they may not even have a home to go to. So as you look at this, thank you, Chief. I appreciate also that you immediately started trying to figure out ways to address the issues that came up last night. And I'm going to close with a question. Do we, to you, Chief, and also to Alameda Family Services, do we have bilingual capacity to respond to these?
Well, do you want to go?
Come on up,
Well,
whoever
there's-
likes to answer.
There are two responders here, so.
Yes, we do. The paramedics are aware that Alameda Family Services has a contract with Globo Translation Services that's often used throughout the county behavioral healthcare services. And so there have been times where we've recommended during on-call consultations that we utilize the translation services. And there have been times where they've contacted us specifically for our translation services, which becomes a three-way call that they put on speakerphone to do the translation. Having had a lot of experience with Globo, they do a fantastic job of translation. And although it would be much better to have language capacity within our own teams for whoever we show up for, it has been, a beneficial partner in these moments.
Great. Well, that's good to know that that resource is available. Thank you
Yes,
so much.
absolutely. Thank you. Great question.
And if there are no further comments, anybody want to make a motion to authorize the city manager to execute this new service provider contract? Alameda Family Services?
So moved.
Been moved by the Vice Mayor, seconded by Councilmember Bowler. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed, any abstentions? There are none. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much. Everyone, we have reached the 2-hour plus mark, so we are going to take a little break. And we'll be back. Let's see, it's 9:07. Let's be back in our seats by 9:20. I don't think we have too much more to go, but 2 hours is what the psychiatrists at UCSF say is the maximum. You should go without a break. It did. Well, really engaging conversation. All right, 9:20, we'll be back. Thanks. We're past our start time. Let's call the meeting back to order. Madam Clerk, would you please introduce item 7C?
Introduction of ordinance re-adopting Alameda Municipal Code Section 6-62, third-party food delivery services of Article 18, fair housing and tenant protections of Chapter 6, businesses, occupations, and industries to continue placing limits on charges imposed by third-party delivery services. Define core product offering to mean a service and other amendments.
Hello and welcome. Want to introduce yourself?
Yes, Abby Thorne Lyman, Director of Base Reuse and Economic Development, and I am simply here to introduce Jackie Kali'ia'a, who is a Development Manager with the Economic Development Division and is giving her debut presentation to council tonight.
Take it away, Ms. Kali'ia'a.
Hi,
Welcome.
Hi, good evening, Honorable Mayor Ezzy Ashcraft and members of council. Thank you for having me here this evening. I'm here to discuss the readoption of the third-party food delivery services ordinance. So a bit of background on this: in September 15th of 2020, City Council unanimously approved the ordinance, which placed a 15% cap on fees and surcharges levied on Alameda restaurants using third-party food delivery services such as Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Grubhub. This ordinance was developed during a time when typical fees that third-party food delivery services charged restaurants ranged from 15% to 31% of the purchase price, on top of the 15 to 30% fees charged to customers. So restaurants and residents reported these fees were unsustainable, especially given the dire financial straits that restaurants suffered during the pandemic. The ordinance was effective for the duration of the local pandemic state of emergency until February 28th, 2023, when the state of emergency terminated the emergency declaration. So in anticipation of the end of the temporary ordinance, staff and former council member conducted outreach and researched best practices nationally to better understand whether continued protections for local restaurants were in fact needed moving forward. During this outreach, the retail food establishments reported that they continued to struggle with ongoing concerns related to the pandemic. There was a lack of return to in-person dining at pre-pandemic levels. And also some retail food establishments went so far as to say that if it weren't for the ordinance and the fee cap, that they would no longer be in business. So in March of 2023, staff brought before the council a request to amend the third-party delivery services ordinance to continue placing limits on charges imposed by these services. Specifically, the ordinance did three things. It capped delivery service fees at 15% of the purchase price of the order, and also offered restaurants the option of utilizing additional marketing services should they choose to do so. And number two, in an effort to protect consumers from the increases of these services, the ordinance limited the establishment of new flat fees, costs, or commissions beyond those established in the ordinance. And finally, three, it limited the increase of existing fees, costs, or commissions beyond those established in the ordinance by the percentage of the CPI, essentially adjusting for inflation. So the ordinance was approved by council and went into effect April 2023 and sunset on May 1st, last week. So staff are requesting the ordinance to be readopted as it was previously approved and extended for 1 year, offering our local restaurant community continued protections from the fee hikes levied by these third-party food delivery services. And when this was adopted in 2023, it was approved for a 2-year period to allow staff time to engage with the local restaurant community to better understand the context of these services and their impact on our retail food establishments. Staff have not completed this analysis due to transitions in this team, but we're committed to doing that research now. However, we are unaware of any concerns, and it's very clear that food delivery services still operate here in the city. And in the ordinance and proposal that we propose tonight, we have to sunset this within a year with the intention for staff to return to report on the effectiveness of this ordinance. An alternative approach would be for the council to approve the ordinance without a sunset date while staff continue to conduct crucial research into the impact of these food delivery services post-pandemic. Either way, we're committed to conducting this research and reporting back to council. And I'm available to answer any questions you have. And also, City Attorney Eben Shen also worked on this in 2023. And my colleague Walker Tomo with Base Reuse and Economic Development also worked on this in 2023. So they are both available to answer questions related to that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Kali'ia'a. Very nice presentation. Do we have any public comment, Madam Clerk? All right. Any clarifying questions before we go to our public comment, or we should take public comment? Yes, Council, Vice Mayor Pryor.
I was just wondering what in this, while you're still doing this study, have you guys considered like lowering the cap 13%? I didn't know if that's going to be part of.
We haven't gotten to the point where we've discovered whether lowering or staying at 15%. We still need to do that research, but we do intend to work with WABA, DABA, the chamber, as well as our local restaurant and bar coalition and other restaurants who've expressed interest in weighing in on this issue.
Okay, thank you.
Any other clarifying questions? Let's go to our public comment.
Gabriel Duncan.
Welcome, Speaker Duncan.
Hi, I'm Gabriel Duncan. I'm a resident here in Alameda. And I have firsthand experience with a lot of different types of food insecurity. And that either comes from it not being available, not having enough money to get it, or not having good nutritious food to eat. So this ordinance would help to make sure that consumers will be able to get like good food at times when it wouldn't normally be available. And we can have several different types of obstacles to getting food, including a lack of transportation. So when you're thinking about readopting this, please keep that in mind as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further speakers?
There's none.
Okay, with that, we will close public comment and we will open it up to council comment. I will just say that I was mayor in the pandemic. I had barely been mayor a year and this happened, and our small businesses were all struggling. Some of them survived, some of them didn't. And this was just something that we felt was very important because without some regulation, the food delivery services were really charging exorbitant fees. Unlike when we did this in 2020, I don't think we got any letters of opposition, right? And I do recall some lively Zoom conversations. I won't name the the ones who were more charming or less charming maybe than others, but you know, here's the deal. Restaurants survived, food delivery services survived, so maybe the sky did not fall after all. So anyway, I would certainly support exactly what staff is recommending. This side of the dais?
No, thank you.
Okay. Councilor Dayside?
Yes, I heartily supported this when this came before us, and you know, I see no reason to support it for another year. The question that I have is, so we had an enforcement mechanism. I'm sorry, I should have asked this earlier, City Attorney, but had we ever pulled the trigger on the enforcement mechanism on anyone? Has anyone ever had to pay the fines that are in the ordinance?
Council member, we have not received any referrals for enforcement during the duration of this ordinance.
Great. Well, that's good news.
Okay, did I understand you correctly that you don't support the extension?
No, I support.
Oh, okay. The way you phrased it, okay.
I think I said I hardly, did I say I hardly support it? HEARTI.
I'm sure it was implied. I just missed it. Okay. This side of the dais?
Oh, I
Vice
was
Mayor?
going to say, I wholeheartedly support this, yes.
I
Councilmember
actually
Jensen.
support it, and I would like to support it without a limit. I would like to support it to be not for 1 year, but to be permanent, and ask that, well, I'll make that motion, but with staff coming back once the data is collected.
So I think what I would like is that I definitely want staff to come back and with the data to maybe look at lowering the cap. But I don't think we just do that without some data. Is that correct? City Attorney or back to staff? Yeah, go ahead.
Madam Mayor, so the council has wide-ranging discretion here. So one option you have is to adopt a staff recommendation with the direction for the data. Another option is for you to remove the sunset and give staff direction to come back with a specific time so you can modify the ordinance further. So you have wide ranging discretion here.
Okay, that is intriguing. I guess I would want to know, and then I'll get it back to my colleague, Councilmember Jensen, how much time staff thinks is reasonable to, come on back, Ms. Kalia.
So we are asking for a year to have a comprehensive plan to come back. We're looking to convene a group of our local restaurateurs to lead as a commission to sort of guide the guidance on this. And we also want to reach out to our neighboring cities to see what they're doing about the post-pandemic landscape of third-party food delivery services. And we actually are going to start reaching out next week. So I think we want to get some comprehensive data and do a lot of outreach to our restaurant community. And it would be great to have a year if possible so that we can adequately do that and have time to reflect on our findings.
And I think that sounds reasonable. I will just add a little caveat about reaching out to our neighbors. As I recall, Alameda was gutsier than just about everybody. And so if I believe that we are doing the right thing, I do not need to have San Francisco, Berkeley. Although I think maybe San Francisco did it, but Berkeley didn't. And I don't really care if it's the right thing to be doing, given the financial landscape right now. And then I don't care. But I mean, you go ahead and you do you. But back to you, Councilmember Jensen.
I couldn't agree with you more, Madam Mayor. And so that's why I think that this is working. I think that we should give staff the tools to do the evaluation. So I would like to move that we remove the sunset, we approve the ordinance, and that staff come back in a year with any either suggested changes or with just the data, if that's necessary.
And I would like to add to that something that I noticed recently, and the city attorney told me this shouldn't be happening, is I was ordering takeout. I mean, I was going to go pick it up, but I was looking at the menu and they had all these different delivery service. You had to order through one of the services, even if you were going to pick it up. So I don't know, I just kind of picked one, but I had been looking at the restaurant's menu to see what it was I wanted to order. But then when I looked at this particular service, it was considerably higher, the prices for the same entree, like a couple dollars higher for each. And so then I went to another one and did my comparison, and it was the same as the menu. So is there a way that we can look into that too? Because I do believe that's a violation, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, we'll definitely look into that.
Okay, I would just like to add that staff direction to the along with the
Absolutely.
motion.
No,
Yeah.
and as you point out, that DoorDash and all of those services are actually contracting with all of the restaurants to be their online ordering service, regardless of whether you get it delivered or not. And so
Right.
that it gives them the ability, unfortunately, to be fraudulent if they want to. So I'm glad that we have this plan to move forward and collect the data and work together with the restaurants to protect our consumers.
And our small businesses at the same time. So we have a motion by Councilmember Jensen with direction to staff. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Mayor Pryor. Any further discussion? Seeing none, may we have a roll call vote? No, we don't. I was out late last night. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed, any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. See how easy that was?
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Great premiere. Thank you so much. All right, with that, we move on to item 8, which is City Manager Communication. City Manager Jenna, you're up.
Thank you so much. First, I want to make sure people know last night the City of Alameda held the first of 2 budget workshops with the City Council. While the Alameda's finances are currently stable due to consistent property tax revenues and a modest residual fund balance, the proposed budget for the next 2 years is stretched due to rising costs and uncertain economy, as well as some loss of certain revenues. The second budget workshop on May 13th, the City Council will continue to discuss a variety of policy options along with reviewing the capital budget. Second, construction on the Central Avenue Safety Project is currently taking place from Lincoln Avenue to 9th Street. And as we continue to make progress, lane closures and parking may change rather quickly. Signage with detour routes is posted. Please check the city's website for the latest information. Next Wednesday, May 14th at 5 p.m., the Alameda County Transportation Commission is hosting a virtual presentation on the Oakland Alameda Access Project. If you haven't had a chance to attend an in-person open house, this virtual option will provide information about the project benefits and construction schedule. A recording of the presentation will be shared on the project website. And then lastly, next Thursday, May 15th, is the annual Bike to Wherever Day. So check the city's website to learn about the festivities planned throughout the day and be alert to additional students and commuters on the road. Thank you.
I should know this. What day did you say?
May 15th.
Okay. Thank you for that. All right, our next up is item 9, oral communications, non-agenda item. Anything? No, we move on from that. Okay, we have a council referral. Madam Clerk, do you want to introduce item 10A, please?
Consider directing staff to take steps necessary to declare the city of Alameda a lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer sanctuary city.
And that was brought by Councilmember Tony Daysog, so I'll ask you to take it from here.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I think in a sad way, we're discussing this today when the Trump administration got the support of the courts to allow the Trump administration to basically kick out anyone who's transgender from our military forces. And unfortunately, that happened today. And so the reason why I brought this is because we received an email from a resident of Alameda who I believe provided a poignant story of her experience. I'm sorry, hold on. Of their experience. As I looked at our sanctuary city policy, while it does refer to protecting LGBTQ members of the LGBTQ community, I felt that maybe we should take the time to not only specifically declare the city of Alameda as a sanctuary city for members of the LGBTQ community, but then to also use that moment to begin to look at specific actions that we as a city can incorporate that demonstrate clearly ways that we're trying to make the city of Alameda especially welcoming to members of the LGBT, but most especially members of the transgender community. And what I mean by that, for example, is when I looked at the website of the Alameda School District, they have some very specific policies that while they're very specific to the school context, I think there are some elements there that perhaps we could have our Social Service Human Relations Board in conjunction with our Parks Department to see how they can incorporate that into policies that we as a city might adopt. They can give their guidance to us on City Council as to how to adopt it. And as I noted earlier, we in the city of Alameda, we certainly control a lot of assets, not just local parks, but swimming pools, golf courses, places where people of all ages congregate. And we might take an opportunity to think about how can we leverage the fact that these are our assets in kind of informing residents about where the city of Alameda stands in terms of providing services providing services to members of the LGBTQ community, especially the transgender community. And I think the item that was discussed last night, where the city attorney's office was bringing forward the idea the advocate, I think was the citizens advocate. I mean, that's a concrete way.
Victims advocate.
Victims advocate. That's a concrete way of, we're just not, generically protecting, but we actually have an institutionalized resource doing that. So I, give great kudos to the city attorney's office in developing that. So what I would like to do is definitely is I would like us on city council to consider giving guidance to our city manager as well as our boards to give us feedback on how can we take affirmative steps to make the city more welcoming to members of the LGBTQ community and any vulnerable community, quite frankly. So thank you.
Thank you. Any public comment on this one, Madam Clerk? Okay, is it okay if we take our public comment and then just do clarifying questions and our comments all at once? Okay, let's do that.
Gabriel Duncan.
Welcome, Speaker Duncan.
Hello, my name is Gabriel Duncan. I'm speaking as a resident of Alameda and also the founder of the Alameda Native History Project. I've been involved. I'm Two-Spirit, which is a Native American term for somebody who doesn't specifically fit inside of the binary roles. In Native American culture, we had specific roles for people who did not fit into male or female, and they were a celebrated and integral part of these communities. And as such, I also consider myself queer because I just still don't fit into the regular rainbow either. And creating space for transgender people specifically is incredibly important to make sure that people who are non-gender conforming or non-binary have a space where they feel like they can belong, but most importantly, to have a space where they can feel safe. There are so many people in this world that are afraid to be who they are inside. And there are so many people here who have been beaten down by the dominant paradigm, and being able to offer these humans sanctuary and a place to belong is one of the greatest gifts that you can give to your community. So when you look at the sanctuary city and you include specifically people who are LGBTQ+ and Two-Spirit, you're going to be honoring our humanity, and you're going to be welcoming us into the fellowship of humans. And that's really important. So I really commend you, Tony Desog, for moving this forward like this. And furthermore, when I looked at this item number and I read myself the redacted email, it really made me sad that this person who I think perhaps might be an educator in the city is so afraid to use their real name and their specifics that they have a redacted comment.
I redacted it.
No, and that's fine. But the point is that, is that this is so sensitive. This situation is so tumultuous or, just so fraught that, this is something that we feel like we need to do to redact these statements. And we should really be giving space for people to exist, and we should be honoring them. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
There's none.
All right. Sir, if you want to submit a public comment, there's a process to do that. Do you know how to do that? You need to fill out a speaker slip. Did you want to speak? Well, that's okay. We can quickly reopen public comment. Madam Clerk, can you or
Yeah,
Matt,
he can come up and we can
come on up and speak and then just fill out the comment card afterwards. Okay. Wait until you come to the microphone. And just to be specific, this is, you have comments on the item that we're discussing right now. Is that correct?
Actually, item 9.
Actually, item 9 has closed. I'm so sorry. So, well, but I know you've been waiting here for a while, so let me exercise my mayor's privilege. And I will just, so Madam Clerk, do you want to just explain what the process is? We'll make an exception this time, but Madam Clerk, just explain as someone who wants to speak would get a speaker slip where?
Right out in the hall, there's speaker slips.
On that desk,
on the
right?
desk,
Uh-huh.
by the agendas, and whenever you come to a meeting, you can just complete it and bring it up here, and we will keep it and call it when we get to that item. and
Do we have
section.
any in here?
No, but we'll go grab one for
Okay.
him.
Okay, so we'll get you one. So in the meantime, bring the microphone down to your level so we can hear you. And we're just about to start the timer so you can speak. Okay. All right. So welcome.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Ashcroft and esteemed council members. I'm here basically because there was a proclamation during the month of April, and that was for the fall of Saigon, which occurred on April 30th. And 2025, which is like the 50th anniversary of the fall of Saigon. And if I may read from, Derek Trans, this is only like a minute and a half, I think.
You can speak as long as the time are we running the timer? I see you've got a couple minutes, so.
Okay.
And you might want to bring that microphone down just a little bit. We can
Sure.
hear you better.
Okay.
All right.
Derek Tran is the congressional representative for Little Saigon in Orange County, which is the largest, Little Saigon. We have one here in Oakland too. So the Alameda County Board of Supervisors has passed a commendation recognizing the fall of Saigon. And the city of San Jose, of course, had their celebration. But anyway, here it goes. So Mr. Tran says, this is in Congress, I rise to mark the beginning of the most solemn month of the year for Vietnamese American and diaspora. We refer to this month as Black April or Than Tu Den because so many of us lost our homes, our livelihood, and our country. My parents escaped brutal oppression at the hands of the Vietnamese Communist government and came to this country seeking the freedom and democracy that has been ripped away from them in the country of their birth. This year, we recognize the 50th anniversary of the fall of Saigon on April 30th, 1975. In the years since, hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese Americans have built vibrant communities in the United States that have enriched our nation and strengthened our communities. By recognizing Black April, we honor those who sacrificed their lives for freedom, including members of the South Vietnamese military who fought alongside American allied forces. We also honor the immense hardship endured by the refugees as they embarked on the perilous journey to seek refuge and build their lives. I'm so proud to be the first Vietnamese American to represent Orange County Little Saigon community in Congress, home to the largest Vietnamese diaspora in the world. Little Saigon is a beacon of hope and testament to the resiliency of our community. I am proud to tell the story of our community on the floor of the United States House of Representatives to ensure that no communist regime can rewrite our history. And we have various Vietnamese representatives, especially at College Alameda. For example, we have.
And so your time is up, but thank you so much for reading that. And then was there anything that you wanted to leave with the city clerk? Yeah, I see you have an envelope there with you.
I can leave these two things I just read. So in case Honorable Mayor decides to include them in a proclamation for April, or maybe as an addendum to this month.
Thank you so much. Your time is up, but if you want to leave anything with the clerk, please do so. And thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
All right, so then we will go back or maybe forward to our discussion. And Madam Clerk, that was the last of the public comment on item 10, right? Okay. All right, well, who would like to start as my iPad freezes for the umpteenth time tonight? So I'm not going to take notes, but Councilmember Jensen, would you like to start?
Of course, I will. Thank you. Thank you for introducing this, Councilmember Desag, and I also appreciate you're noting that our actions recently, our actions last night and tonight to support communities, all vulnerable populations here in Alameda, also suggest that we need to do everything that we can to make our residents feel safe. I also want to recognize Gabriel Duncan for your articulate comments about both about Native American views and support for all peoples, all humans, as well as your long time. You live here and you know our community, and your support is really critical too. So I appreciate your comments and your thoughts on this. But I want to end by just saying thank you to Councilmember Daysog for reviewing what's going on in Alameda Unified School District and point out that 15 years ago in Alameda Unified School District, myself, Neil Tam, and Ron Mooney, along we led and we got the school district, after hearing from students, teachers, and parents at elementary schools that there was bullying going on, bullying of students, either because they were non-binary, they felt uncomfortable, or for any number of reasons, bullying of students because they had parents who were gay or lesbian or transgender, and of course, teachers who were afraid to be out in the classroom. And so at that time, we were with a lot of support huge support from people in this room, people in the community, and teachers and administrators in Alameda Unified School District, along with the wide majority of parents in this community. We were able to pass Lesson 9, the first education curricula for elementary school students in the country at that time. And we faced a lot of opposition, but we were able to do it because Alameda is a welcoming community and because we care about everyone from babies to grandparents, and everyone should be able to express themselves and their sexuality and their gender in the way that they feel most comfortable and most safe.
Thank you. Anyone else want to comment?
I just want to appreciate that you brought this forward, Councilmember Daysog. I think that when we, as the leaders of the city, take the time and the opportunity to reach out and protect the most vulnerable and people in our community that are targeted. There are giant, well-funded campaigns of hate in the country. And so this is really important. And so I just want to appreciate that you brought this forward.
I'll just go along down the line if you don't mind. I appreciate the sentiment behind this. I have a couple of thoughts. I think these are really important issues to raise. And I think you said as much in your comments earlier. And in fact, when the Shrub presentation was going on, that you would like to see what our different boards and commissions can do to provide greater support. You'd like the city manager to tell us how we can take affirmative steps to support transgender people. I heartily support all of that. I would stop short of amending the resolution, which we do have, that I think maybe a newish resident wasn't aware of. The reason I say that, and again, I've promised the city manager a memo from so much that I learned when I was in DC last week. And one of the things is that we need to be careful not to put targets on our back that could have unintended consequences in this administration, in the form of actually causing us to lose funding that might be supporting the very initiatives and programs you would like to see more of. So at this point, I would do things, real things that we can actually concretely do and actions we can take. I don't know that this is the time that I want to say, oh, and Alameda is doing this, because I think that folks in the federal government are using AI and are looking to see what different cities are doing, calling themselves. And I want to make sure that we keep our funding streams as strong as possible. So my thoughts. Councilmember Bowler.
Thank you. I just want to commend Councilmember Daysog for bringing this forward. It's an interesting proposition. It does have consequences, but the intended consequences, of course, are very, very strong in terms of trying to keep Alameda a community that is welcoming to everyone. And it's certainly within the priorities of our strategic plan. I believe that if I understand the referral process, I believe most likely this would be a motion to schedule it as a future council agenda item, because that's basically at least in the staff report, saying we can take no action, refer it to as a future item, or take action only if it's a time sensitive legislative matter. And I don't think if I understand correctly, I don't think we're actually deciding
Yeah,
the
we're not actually deciding it.
Right.
Well, I think one of the actions would be to refer it to the city manager to then kind of, along with the city attorney, to then kind of, use their brain power to work with the respective department heads and the respective commissions and then feedback whatever guidance that they give to us. So yes, so per se, we're not declaring that tonight. On the question of whether or not to specifically declare the city of Alameda as an LGBTQ sanctuary city, in a way, the sanctuary city resolution does that.
It does.
So one
I
of
have
the
it right
things
here.
one of the things that we could do, one of the things to consider though, is we always have the June Pride Month proclamation. Maybe one of the whereases could be call out that fact. So, but you're right. I think the more important thing is really the action steps. And that's where, the guidance from staff and the commissions is most important. Like one action step that I'd like to see, for example, is, some kind of 11/17, statement, like at a baseball field where people of all ages congregate, and they realize and they see that, that front and center, that this is what we value as a city. So that, sometimes things at a softball game can kind of, because people don't think, but at least, if we put it front and center. But more importantly though, is like when I go to parks or when I walk through Washington Park on my way to the tennis courts, at the picnic tables, I always see people, of all ethnicities and races and languages. And it's those kind of assets where we could have, kiosks, standardized kiosks from one park to the next that, talk about the fact that we have now, well, we will have the victim resource from the city attorney's office. So that's what I mean by utilizing assets, but it's not for me to prescribe what it is, but hopefully our commissions can give us guidance.
I like the sound of that, of asking the city attorney and city manager to work together to see what guidance to give us.
Yeah.
I'm not sure did you finish, Councilmember Bowler?
Just a couple more.
Yeah, I thought you were still.
No, it's absolutely appropriate. I appreciate you chimed in because that was good clarification. And, one of the things I want to recognize is the citizen that wrote the email, and, our hearts go out to that person. I do think there's good news in the email in that he talks about the police chief and how thoughtful and compassionate he was and how responsive. So, and I think it's important to point out that the email is asking for us to continue to be a leader in prioritizing resident safety and well-being. And it's calling out the fact that Alameda does have a pretty good history, a recent history of being a very strong and welcoming place. So I think that's terrific. I'm open-minded as to where we go from here.
Okay, that's
Please, Councilmember Jensen.
to your point, Councilmember Bowler, and also I think what we heard earlier with regard to the CARE program, we heard about the support that Alameda Family Services is giving to all of our departments and how to approach people, how to learn from people, how to be welcoming. And so I think there are things that we can highlight, things that we're doing. And I also understand next month we will have our Pride celebrations, and that's a good opportunity to reiterate our support.
And I will just throw out that I always welcome help writing proclamations. So I'm looking at you, Councilmember Daysog. We can talk. All right. Well, I would certainly, let's see, do we need to take a vote? Okay. I would support what Councilmember Daysog just said about giving direction to our city manager and city attorney to work together to come back to the council to suggest affirmative steps. Is that
Exactly.
that can be taken?
Yeah.
I just ask,
Please, yes.
because of Pride Month being in June, to get back on the council agenda, is it okay if you're also giving us direction to take some steps before coming back as well? I mean, there might be some things we could do in June before coming back. We may not be able to get to you.
Yeah.
I mean, we could try.
Got this little thing called the budget that we're dealing with in June too. Yeah.
So if you're okay, trying to make sure we take advantage of.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, I think what I'm hearing you say is that's almost expedited, is that not? I mean.
Yeah, it just sounds like, I think there might be opportunities in June to take some affirmative steps, and we might not be able to come get those approved by the council prior to that. So we can still come back with some other ideas. I'm just thinking that we might want to, if you're okay giving us some discretion to do that sooner, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't think we want to tell them to wait on that, right? Okay. Is that a motion?
So moved.
Okay, Madam Clerk, did you get enough of that to make a motion? Okay, we have a motion from Councilmember Daysog, seconded by someone? Okay, I think I heard Councilmember Bowler first. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? That passes unanimously. If I'm not mistaken, all of our votes were unanimous tonight. Okay, great. So that takes care of hit the agenda. That is item 10, right? The council
Correct.
referrals. Okay, and then council communications, and feel free to make them brief if you wish, just because we were out late last night. But who would like to start with council communications?
Start.
Councilmember Bowler.
I attended the Airport Community Noise Forum on April 16. The Chamber of Commerce Mixer with Oakland Roots on April 17. And there was also a really terrific Bay Area Blue and Ocean Tech event at Alameda Point on April 22nd, a showcase of some of the companies in this area, including our own in Alameda. On April 23rd, film screening by the Alameda Sister Cities Association of the film No Other Land. A town hall in these chambers with our Congress member Latifah Simon on April 25. And we have had 3 weeks, I think, since our last meeting. So there was a well-attended and very important town hall for Pacific Fusion that I was able to go to on May 1st. And I was very pleased to be with every council member here except for, unfortunately, the vice mayor on May 3rd at the 75th anniversary gala for the Boys and Girls Club.
Thank you. Councilmember Daysog?
Yes. Let's see. April 17th, I was at Coast Guard Island for the enlisted person of the quarter, as well as a civilian employee of the quarter, giving them a certificate signed by the mayor. And I expressed thanks to their service on behalf of the mayor and the city council. On April 19th, Saturday, I attended the Kanfuk Family Association, and I issued what I call a certificate of appreciation to the Kanfuk Family Association for providing assistance to generations of immigrants of Chinese American descent. The Kanfuk Family Association had been in existence for 166 years, starting in 1859. And I pointed out on that same, because April 19th was its anniversary, I pointed out April 19th was also the birthday anniversary of the city of Alameda.
What day?
April 19th.
April.
Began
we
in
missed it.
1854. So
Mhm.
we were 171 years old. And then, yes, the May 3rd Alameda Boys and Girls Club was a nice event. And as I indicated earlier, the Asian Pacific Islander Arts and Cultural Festival was really nice. I mean, there was a lot of pageantry and dance and a lot of booths there, tables actually. That was on Saturday, April 26th. And just a reminder, Sunday, May 18th is the Asian Pacific Islander Culture Festival at Alameda Point, 950 West Mall Square. That's Sunday, May 18th. And also National Kids to Parks Day is Saturday, May 17th at Washington Park.
Who's next? Vice Mayor Pryor.
So I have no dates, but I went to a bunch of stuff. So I'm just going to say what I did. I went to an open house at the Chamber of Commerce for the Oakland Alameda Access Project. That was great. It was well attended. They had great big pictures. And they had people, the experts, to speak to each picture. So I thought that was great. I went to the Alameda Commuters Annual Golf Tournament. It was like the 94th. And they went into, they had to play extra rounds. So I got to go on a fancy golf cart and look at, it was super fun. I have to say, I want to go next year now. I went.
You can do that. I can make that happen. Thank you.
I went to the Alameda Commuter, I also saw the screening of No Other Land that was put on by the Alameda Sister City Association. This was great. Here at City Council, there are the chambers, there was a speech contest for called it's for the Season of Nonviolent Speech contest. And 9 amazing Alameda High School students spoke to their vision for a beloved community as inspired by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I was here also when Congresswoman Latifah Simon had her town hall. That was great. And then I did the AC Transit Interagency Liaison Committee. So that was great.
Perfect. Thank you. And I want to thank you and also Councilmember Daysuk for filling in for me. I need a clone and I do have them. I mean, we don't look exactly alike, but close enough. But thank you. I appreciate that. Councilmember Jensen, what have you got?
Well, since our last meeting, I was fortunate to be able to join the Alameda Chamber of Commerce Leadership Group on their tour of several businesses on Friday, the 18th of April, including Saildrone, Kairos, and Almanac. I learned a lot about beer making, which was interesting. But also Kairos is another energy company that does a slightly different type of energy than fission, and they're doing a great job. And also Saildrone, one of our really important and exciting businesses out at Alameda Point and expanding pretty quickly. So that was interesting. On Saturday, the 19th, I went to the ARPD Spring Shindig, which was a great event. Lots of fun, lots of people, including the city attorney and all of our ARPD staff. I think the entire ARPD department was there, and that was great. And then I went to Hawaii, so I didn't do much. After that, I was kind of under the radar for a while, but I joined several of you at the meeting at the Boys and Girls Club event, which was really great. And I just want to say thank you to Mayor Ashcraft has appointed me to the Healthy Homes Committee, which has not yet met, but I wanted to point out that unfortunately that's another part of the Housing and Urban Development grant, the Housing and Urban Development budget that is going to be cut. Lead paint, addressing lead paint in older homes and older buildings is going to be eliminated, in the proposed budget from the president. So just wanted to share that.
Because that's where you would want to balance your budget. Yeah. So I'll try to run through this quickly. on April 17th, I attended the East Bay Division of the League of California Cities. Nope, that wasn't April 17th. April 17th, I actually attended the city attorney's office, hosted a fair housing workshop, really well attended, great panel. I wish I could have stayed longer. I then zoomed over to Mastic Senior Center where they had their amazing volunteer lunch, honoring 180 volunteers. So much energy in that group. And then that evening, okay, it was a busy day. That evening, I was at Diablo Valley College in, I think that's Pleasant Hill, for the East Bay Division of the League of California Cities, which is the cities of Alameda and Contra Costa County. And we had two speakers from the State Assembly, President Pro Tem and Tim Grayson, who represents that side of the tunnel. And this is part of the reason I think I'm just feeling so depressed lately, because every time I turn around, our leaders, whether it's in DC or at the state level, are saying the worst is yet to come, the state budget. I mean, we'll have the May revised soon, but don't expect much. I asked a question about how the state might help us to backfill funding that we lost when FEMA BRIC grants were withdrawn. And well, we do have some things to follow up, and I owe you some follow-up, city manager, but it's, we're kind of out on our own for a while. So that's why when I was saying yesterday, let's really take it kind of cautiously this first year of the fiscal year, because there's just so much that's unknown, but I'm not expecting much good news. And then on luckily, my days are, varied. And so I get to do fun things too. Then on April the 21st, I was invited to Franklin Elementary School for their opening assembly on the schoolyard. It was April, so it was still Arab American Heritage Month, and they wanted to have me as a guest to speak a little bit to the kids. And I got to meet a mom and her 6-year-old. They're refugees from Syria and students. The daughter's a student there. And I also was at the Bay Area Blue and Ocean Tech Happy Hour that Natel hosted on April 22nd. And I made some remarks, and Abby Thorne-Lyman, our Base for Youth and Economic Development Director, isn't still here, but she was kept very busy because I kept meeting people and saying, go talk to that woman there. We want you to move your company from, Los Angeles, from Marin, from wherever this is the place to go. But it was a great showcase, and the room was, at Natel was really full. And yes, I was also there for the showing of No Other Lands and for the Oakland Alameda Access Project open house. And then that night after the open house, I took the train to Sacramento because I had League of California City Board meetings and some other meetings Thursday or Friday morning into Saturday. Took the train back Saturday, raced home, changed clothes, and did a presentation at Books Inc. because they're celebrating their, I think, 21st anniversary on Park Street. They've been a great community partner. And I also went to, on Monday, the 28th, I was with a group from Alameda County Transportation Commission and Caltrans. We did the ribbon cutting for the Gilman overcrossing. If you drive on Highway 80, you're headed up to Sacramento. You've probably noticed this because it was a construction site for a while. There's now an overcrossing for bicycles and pedestrians, and it comes down and links to the Bay Trail, but they've also put in roundabouts at when you're coming off of Gilman, whether you're coming, from the east or the west on 80. And I have to tell you, as I sat there looking out at this roundabout, I saw semi trucks go through these roundabouts. I mean, it's designed for that. I remember thinking, how fast could I jump up from my car if anything went wrong? But it's just, we should not be afraid of roundabouts coming. They slow the traffic down, and it was really impressive. And then that was the 28th, and then I flew to DC on Wednesday, April the 30th, because I was honored to be chosen to participate in the Mayor's Institute on Pedestrian Safety, and they wanted to do the first meeting. We are a dozen mayors from all over the country and one from each state, but obviously not all the states. But so much great information, not only on funding, but design considerations. And then from here on out, there'll be virtual, I think, monthly meetings, and different staff from planning, building, and transportation will join me depending on the topic. And I flew home that Friday night, and then Saturday, I attended the home electrification fair that AMP and some of our city departments put on at Almanac, because, no, not Almanac, Faction on the water there. It was great. And that evening went to the Boys and Girls Club event. And then on Sunday, I took a little time off and joined the East Bay Leaders for the Oakland Roots game at the Oakland Coliseum. The Roots didn't win, they lost, but it was close, and just really fun to be out there with other East Bay elected officials and just kind of get out in the sunshine and have a good time. So with that, it's getting late, and we had a late night last night. Thank you, everybody, for all your good work, staff, council, and we will be back. Well, we will be back on Monday, right?
Next Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday, a week from tonight. Okay, so the next budget hearing is May the 13th, starting at 6 o'clock. So we'll see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for everything. Drive safely going home. And this meeting is adjourned. It is 10:20. All right, good night.